Chapter 160. Buzz. The impact of the fierce battle between the sanctuary and the heaven state created waves of tremors that came from underground. For a moment, the officials gathered in the main hall could no longer sit still. One by one, they stood up to watch the battle in the inner courtyard. There, the roars of wild beasts and the roars of the royal guards could be heard, as well as the screams of people on the verge of death. Minister Luo Xing's face was a little shocked. "Your Majesty, the attacker is Zhang Baihe, an important guest of the Divine Marquis residence." Qin Jin frowned. The Divine Marquis residence again. The State General Ling Nantian cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, that old man Zhang Baihe is really shameless. He has received so many favors from the emperors in the past, and now he has come to assassinate your Majesty. I will go chop off his head and present it to your Majesty." Qin Jin's heart sank. He knew that although Ling Nantian was good at leading troops, his own combat ability was far from Feng Jixing, Qin Lei and the others. He shook his head. "No. General Ling is the state general, how can you fight with such a despicable person? Guards, where is Feng Jixing?" Outside the main hall, Feng Jixing obeyed and entered. He cupped his fists. "Your Majesty, I am here." "What's the situation outside?" Qin Jin frowned. Feng Jixing said briefly, "Lord Qin Lei is leading the dragon guards to besiege Zhang Baihe, but Zhang Baihe has reared a dragon snake for more than 10,000 years, so the outcome is uncertain. In my opinion, why not let me cover your Majesty's retreat? The location of the main hall is too obvious. If Zhang Baihe breaks through the protection of the royal guards, the safety of your Majesty and the other officials will be in danger." "Yes." Qin Jin nodded. "Let's go to the West Court." "Yes." Kung. Feng Jixing unsheathed his wind cutter and shouted, "Imperial Guards camp, follow me to protect His Majesty and the ministers to the West Court." At the east gate of Deer Song Park, about 300 Imperial Guards were guarding. Fire broke out in all directions. They did not know where to go and could only stay where they were. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in the cold night, the sharp arrows came along with the wind. In the blink of an eye, dozens of Imperial Guards guarding the gate were killed. One of the generals hurriedly shouted, "Defend with shield walls and use kerosene to block the way." The Imperial Guards on the city wall threw down the oil barrels one after another. Bang! 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 The barrels exploded and the black beach oil splattered all over the ground. Following that, torches were thrown down. In the blink of an eye, the only path to the east gate of Deer Cry Garden had turned into a sea of fire. "Serve me with your arrows." Arrows rained down from the city walls, injuring several Bronze Elder Rangers who were charging at the front. Some of them were even shot to death. Ji Yang's face turned cold. He jumped off the horse and shouted, "Li Qinshuan, water separation technique." "Yes, big brother." Li Qinshuan leaped forward and raised his palms. Immediately, streams of battle aura rapidly absorbed the water elements in the air. He abruptly pushed his palms forward and then slowly separated them. Immediately, the streams of water elements pushed the flames to the sides as if they had a mind of their own. This kind of fire extinguishing technique was truly amazing. However, Li Qinshuan, who was using the water separation technique, was not in a good condition either. His face was covered in sweat, and in the blink of an eye, his battle energy was almost overdrawn. "Charge in." Ji Yang took the opportunity to mount his horse and charge forward with everyone. His battle armor blocked the dense rain of arrows, and he punched out with his fist, directly reducing the east gate of Deer Song Park to dust. This gate was made of wood, so it had no defensive power at all. Furthermore, Deer Song Park was originally a palace for the emperor to patrol. It was originally not designed to be used for defense, so naturally, it could not withstand a single blow. A group of rangers quickly rode their horses and followed Ji Yang into the garden. The 600 Imperial Guards could not stop them even if they wanted to. After all, the other party had a level 74 Heavenly King. Shoo! There was a sharp caw in the air, and a black-feathered crow landed on Li Qianxuan's shoulder. His eyes shone with a demonic light, and he suddenly said, "Big brother, Qin Jin has gone to the West Court. We'll pass through the Imperial Garden from here and catch them off guard." Okay. The moonlight was like water. The snow a few miles away from Deer Cry Park had not completely melted yet. Amidst the clattering of hooves, the iron hooves left black spots on the snow. The curved hooves left marks on the snow, like the waning moon treading on the snow. In the distance, flames shot into the sky, and they could already hear the battle cries coming from Deer Song Park. Wei Chou frowned and said, "Are we already too late?" "It's not too late as long as we are here." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and pulled out the burning prairie sword. She said, "The south gate is intact. Let's kill our way through the broken north gate. Full speed ahead." Yes. Over 300 Imperial Guards of the Eagle Nest Camp rushed over and passed through the destroyed East Gate. Lin Muyu looked at the broken gate and couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. Who could have such a strong fist force? It was probably Ji Yang, wasn't it? Or the Pale Crane. In the West Garden of Deer Song Park, there used to be a herd of tamed longhorn deer. At the moment, there was a chaotic battle outside. Nearly 100 longhorn deer were stamping their hooves anxiously in the pen. Under the protection of a group of civil and military officials, Qin Jin sat in a side hall of Deer Cry Garden. He looked at the fire outside from afar and sighed. He blamed himself endlessly in his heart, yet he asked, "Where is Her Highness Yin?" "Her Highness Yin is bathing in the hot spring in the South Garden." A servant said. "Send someone to find Her Highness Yin." "Yes." "No." Qin Jin raised his arm and said, "Feng Jixing, you will personally lead 200 elite Imperial Guards to the South Garden to protect Her Highness Yin. You must ensure Xiao Yin's safety." Feng Jixing was stunned. "But Your Majesty, the West Garden is already short of soldiers, and there is a group of strong soldiers from the House of Chivalry outside. I am worried that here." "Don't say any more. Go and protect Her Highness Yin." "Yes." Feng Jixing cupped his fists and led the crowd away with his wind cutter. Before he left, he said, "Once the traders from the House of Chivalry come in, immediately open the pen and let the longhorn deer rush out. Maybe they can delay them for a while. I will come back as soon as I find Her Highness Yin." "Yes." Luo Lai cupped his fists and nodded. Less than 5 minutes after Feng Jixing left, the wall of the West Garden was suddenly blasted open with a boom. Gravel flew everywhere, and the torches outside the wall were abnormally dense. At least 1,000 rangers were outside the wall, eyeing them covetously. Ji Yang was surrounded by his combat energy. He stepped on the broken rocks and entered the West Garden with a faint smile on his face. The time to kill the incapable ruler has come. "Rangers, charge!" The Imperial Army's 1,000-man commander Luo Lai immediately led a group of Imperial Army soldiers to welcome them. At the same time, he opened the beast pen. Immediately, a herd of longhorn deers rushed out while howling, catching the rangers off guard. Many of them were stabbed by the longhorn deer's sharp horns, and some were even trampled to death. "Kill!" Ji Yang suddenly rushed forward with his combat energy in his palm. With a sudden blow, he blasted an Imperial Guard into a pile of minced meat. His strength was so tyrannical that it left people speechless. A group of Jin Zun and Silver Venerable Rangers rushed in with their swords. The scene once again turned into a chaotic battle. "Protect Her Majesty! Protect Her Majesty!" The civil and military officials shouted loudly. But who could protect Qin Jin at this time? Ji Yang, Li Qianxuan, and the other Heaven Realm experts launched their attacks, and the situation became completely one-sided. The 200 Imperial Guards led by Luo Lai were killed one after another, and in the blink of an eye, there were only 50 people left, and even Luo Lai himself was injured. One of his arms was fractured by Ji Yang, and his arm was hanging by his side, and he could not even hold his longsword steadily. Gritting his teeth, Luo Lai switched to his left hand to hold his sword. But he was not familiar with it, and he was sent flying by Ji Yang with a palm strike. General Luo Lai. Qin Jin gritted his teeth and shouted, "Stop fighting. You should not die like this. If the people from the House of Chivalry really want to kill me, then kill them. After I die, Qin Yin will be the ruler, and the empire will not be destroyed." Ji Yang could not help but laugh. "Qin Jin, do you think your daughter can still live? Ha ha ha. Rangers, kill them all. Leave no one alive. I'm going to change the empire's territory today." Just at this moment, the wall at the side suddenly collapsed with a bang, creating a huge gap. A group of people wearing the armor of the Imperial Guard appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The person at the front was impressively a young general holding a flaming longsword. His white robes fluttered in the wind. Suddenly, he opened his palm and let go of the longsword. A dense flame shrouded his palm and the longsword began to spin rapidly. Using fire to control the sword, Lin Muyu urged her horse forward with the longsword in her hand, and her target was Ji Yang. "Lin Yan, it's you." Ji Yang recognized Lin Muyu at a glance. He could not help but shout angrily, "You shameless villain, so you are also a lackey of the emperor. Say what you want." Lin Muyu charged at Ji Yang with great momentum. She leaped from her horse and controlled the burning prairie sword with her palms, striking at Ji Yang with a mighty strike. Ji Yang had to fight Lin Muyu with all his strength. He put his palms together in front of his chest, and his vigorous battle chi condensed into a huge shield. He shouted in a low voice, "Ascending Void Shield." Boom! The dragon flame spiral strike collided with the ascending void shield, and the battle chi instantly erupted. The impact made the group of civil and military officials almost unable to open their eyes. The rapidly spiraling true dragon origin fire tore through the ascending void shield's battle chi defense bit by bit. In fact, the ascending void shield was an enhanced version of battle armor. The moment the ascending void shield was torn apart, the power of the spiral strike was also exhausted. Ding! With a sword cry, the burning prairie sword was shaken, and its power was exhausted. However, Lin Muyu raised her hand and grabbed the long sword in the air. She shouted, "Fire Dragon, come out." Battle chi poured into the blade, and she directly launched a sword soul attack. The fire dragon roared and rushed out through the blade, directly hitting Ji Yang's chest. Ji Yang had already consumed more than 50% of his battle chi along the way. Just now, he used the ascending void shield to block Lin Muyu's spiral strike, and at least 20% of his strength was consumed. Now, how could he block the sword soul attack of the burning prairie sword? There was a burning pain in his chest. What was worse, in Ji Yang's eyes, he clearly saw Lin Muyu rushing over like a ghost, and her fist was surrounded by the familiar all-living stars. The arrogant dragon regrets. Ji Yang instantly felt regret in his heart. Moreover, this time, Lin Muyu had already summoned the green gourd martial soul, and her strength was greatly increased. It was the third glory with 100% strength. Protect the great wandering chess envoy. Li Qianxuan shouted, and hurriedly stood in front of Ji Yang, her palms forming a shield. Bang! With a loud sound, Li Qianxuan and Lin Muyu were both celestial venerables, but they were not as strong as the Seven Glory Dark Force. Li Qianxuan was directly hit by the palm, and blood spurted out of his mouth. To make matters worse, the power of the third glory went through Li Qianxuan's chest and directly hit Ji Yang's abdomen. After a few steps back, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of Ji Yang's mouth. Charge over and kill Qin Jin, or else, no one will leave. Flames of madness burned in Ji Yang's eyes. Lin Muyu's aura was also surging. After using the third glory, her battle chi seemed to have been drained, and she needed a few seconds to recover. Standing in the distance, she said calmly, "Royal guards, protect His Majesty and the ministers." Yes. Wei Chou and the others all pulled out their swords, activated their martial souls, and charged at the group of rangers. Chapter 161. The Eagle Guards. It's the Eagle Guards. The officials cheered. Lin Muyu's arrival gave them hope of survival. Your Majesty. Lin Muyu did not participate in the battle. Instead, she turned around and bowed to Qin Jin. I came late. I should have sensed it earlier, but I could not see through Ji Yang and Li Qianxuan's thoughts. It is my fault that dear garden was attacked. Qin Jin shook his head with a smile. No, you came at the right time. You have done a good job. Lin Muyu nodded and stood by Qin Jin's side to protect him. He did not make a move. When he approached Deer Cry Park, he had already used his spirit pulse technique to sense the aura fluctuations of the surrounding experts. Within the vicinity of Deer Cry Park, the white crane and the 12,300-year-old dragon serpent's aura were the strongest, followed by Ji Yang. Ji Yang's aura was getting weaker and weaker as the battle wore on, so Lin Muyu had chosen to fight Ji Yang the moment he entered Deer Cry Park. He had even used his strongest killing moves, the Dragon Flame Spiral Break and the Third Star, to cripple Ji Yang's battle strength in one round. The next few minutes were his time to recover. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the rest of the Eagle Guards had always been the Imperial Guards outside the capital. They were only responsible for patrolling and gathering information. They did not usually have the chance to protect the Emperor. That was why the opportunity before them was so precious. They fought the Rangers with all their might. 300 of them fought to a draw against more than 1,000 Rangers. Not long after, more than 1,000 Imperial Guards guarding the west gate of Deer Cry Garden charged over. With a pincer attack from both sides, the House of Chivalry was instantly defeated. Silver Venerable, Bronze Venerable, and Iron Venerable Wanderers died under the arrows. Even 2 Golden Venerable Wanderers were killed by Wei Qiu and Xiahou Sang. Ji Yang and Li Qianxuan fled, and the Imperial Guards did not pursue them. Instead, they let the Imperial Guards pursue them. Lin Muyu. Qin Jin suddenly raised an eyebrow and said, Shao Yin is still in the southern court. I wonder how she's doing right now. Feng Jixing is bringing people over right now. You should hurry over as well. Perhaps you'll be able to help Feng Jixing. Lin Muyu stared blankly for a moment, but didn't say anything. She carried her sword and used the falling star steps to rush to the west court. Rumble, a violent rumbling sound came from underground. Feng Jixing looked at the movement under his feet and frowned. He said, the dragon serpent has burrowed back into the ground. Where are Her Highness Yin's people? His Highness, you can stay in the side hall's hot spring. We'll stand guard here, said one of the Imperial Army's Kiliarchs. Feng Jixing narrowed his eyes and said, I wonder how Qin Lei, Chu Huaying and the rest are doing in their battle against Zhang Baihe. Sigh, they came so suddenly this time that we were simply caught off guard, the Kiliarch smiled. Lord Commander, there's no need to blame yourself. We've all done our best. At this moment, there was a sudden bang. The ground trembled, and a huge black figure rushed out. It was the dragon serpent. It seemed to have received an order from Zhang Baihe. The dragon serpent came alone to look for Qin Yin. The moment its huge head emerged from the ground, it opened its mouth and bit 2 Imperial Army cavalrymen to death. Its head shook violently and tore them, along with their horses, into minced meat. Clang! Feng Jixing unsheathed his sword and shouted, Bastard, attack with me and kill him. The dragon serpent seemed to be mocking them. It suddenly raised its head, and a ball of fire appeared on its neck. It was about to attack with a dragon's breath. Feng Jixing was stunned and shouted, "Be careful to dodge." His martial soul was the purple electric flame wolf, which was focused on attacking. He didn't have a defensive skill like Lin Muyu's green gourd. He held his sword with both hands and suddenly spun it like the wind. With the support of his battle energy, it actually formed a huge light shield. He shouted, "Blade dance!" Hua! Scorching flames spewed out and engulfed Feng Jixing's figure. At the same time, more than 10 Imperial Army soldiers around him were burned to ashes. The flames burned along the pavilion, and in the blink of an eye, the side hall of the West Court was on fire. The moment the flames dissipated, Feng Jixing rushed out of the smoke. His face was full of traces of smoke, and his eyes were filled with hatred. The wind-cutter sword turned into a cold light and went straight for the dragon serpent's neck. The first style of the wind blade, Desert Gale. Crack! The sword slashed on the scales and left a deep mark, but it didn't hurt the dragon serpent. On the contrary, the dragon serpent's head swayed rapidly, slamming heavily onto Feng Jixing's shoulder, sending him flying back along with his saber. A group of Imperial guards hurriedly went forward, but they were caught off guard by the dragon serpent's tail swiftly whipping past them. The group of Imperial guards were still standing there in a daze, but their bodies were already splattered with blood, their upper bodies were all snapped and fell down, actually becoming two halves. The cruelty of the massacre was unbearable. The maidservants in the side hall were dumbfounded, and Feng Jixing still held his sword and stood together with the dragon serpent. Rustle, rustle, amidst the rustling sounds, Qin Yin, who had just finished bathing, had already changed into a princess's armor. Her long hair was still wet, and she raised her hand to pick up the long sword beside her. She said to the maidservants, "You guys wait here. I'll go help Commander Feng Jixing." "No." One of the maidservants hurriedly knelt on the ground and said, "Your Highness is precious, how can you take such a risk?" This servant heard that the dragon serpent outside is a 10,000-year-old spirit beast. Even General Feng Jixing isn't its match. If anything happens to your Highness, we won't be able to bear the consequences of His Majesty's wrath. I hope that your Highness will reconsider. Wang, God-binding chains appeared around Qin Yin like guardian spirits, and the maidservants with no cultivation dared to say a word. The God-binding chains were the martial souls of kings, and they contained the majesty of an emperor. It wasn't something that mortals could look directly at. But the moment Qin Yin rushed out of the side hall with her sword, she saw the dragon serpent's tail swaying in the air and drilling into the ground together with its body. Battle chi swirled around the long sword in Feng Jixing's hand as he said angrily, "You killed so many of my men, and you still want to leave?" With a leap, the courageous Imperial Army commander actually followed the dragon serpent into the cave. How can this be? The beautiful princess instantly felt guilty. She didn't have the courage to jump into the dark cave. She had been afraid of the dark since she was a child, and she didn't even blow out the light when she slept at night. A series of rumbling sounds came from underground, and the dragon serpent's tunnel caused the ground to tremble as if there was an earthquake. A few minutes later, there was a sudden bang, and the dragon serpent appeared again. It was impressively in the side hall's hot spring pool. As the water splashed, the dragon serpent let out a roar and swallowed a maidservant. It chewed in big mouthfuls, and fresh blood flowed to the ground. "Bastard!" Qin Yin gritted her teeth and flew over. She didn't wait for the dragon serpent to get close, and she directly raised her arm. Battle chi condensed in the distance, and with a shwa, a golden light burst out, and the god-binding chains broke out from the ground and bombarded the dragon serpent's lower jaw. Immediately, a few large scales flew off, and one could faintly see the dragon serpent's scarlet blood dripping down. Feng Jixing grabbed the dragon serpent's tail, and he held it tightly with one hand while the other held the wind-cutter saber. He hacked at the dragon serpent's body, and it looked very strange and comical. Hiss, hiss, the dragon serpent's huge body twisted, and it went straight for Qin Yin. It opened its mouth and swallowed her. Qin Yin hurriedly summoned the god-binding chains, and with all her might, she summoned 6 god-binding chains in front of her chest. However, with a pang sound, the dragon serpent still broke through them. The blood-red tongue spat out, and it directly wrapped around Qin Yin's arm, pulling her towards its mouth. "It's over." Qin Yin's heart instantly turned to ashes. She waved her sword and slashed, but it was impossible to cut through the extremely tough tongue of the dragon serpent. Moreover, the dragon serpent's strength was frightening, and it dragged her towards its frightening bloody mouth. She couldn't help but close her eyes, and tears filled her eyes. She didn't expect that she would still be buried in the dragon serpent's mouth after escaping from the dragon serpent's poison last time. Just when Qin Yin was in despair, she suddenly felt a warm feeling under her feet. With a rustling sound, a green gourd vine soared into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it wrapped around Qin Yin's body, trying to pull her back. She hurriedly turned her head, and saw Lin Muyu rushing over with the burning prairie sword. The gourd surrounded her, and the burning prairie sword was piercingly cold. She brazenly slashed at the thick and long tongue of the dragon serpent. Pang! It still couldn't be cut. Even Qin Yin's god-binding chains, known as the #1 offensive martial spirit, couldn't cut through the tongue. Naturally, Lin Muyu's 10th grade green gourd couldn't cut through it either. However, Lin Muyu was anxious, and her eyes turned cold. She opened her mouth and bit the dragon serpent's tongue. Pooh! Its teeth were about to break, but it was strange that the tongue could withstand the attack of the god-binding chains, but it seemed to be unable to withstand Lin Muyu's sharp teeth. When it bit again, a fishy taste rushed into its throat. It had bitten through the tongue. Hiss, hiss, the dragon serpent was in pain, and hurriedly retracted its tongue. Meanwhile, Feng Jixing had already taken the opportunity to carry the wind cutter to the side of the dragon serpent. With a spin of the blade, he shouted, "Hot sand gold." After 3 consecutive slashes, the dragon serpent flew back, but before it could feel proud, the dragon serpent's tail had already mysteriously whipped Feng Jixing's shoulder. With a "kacha" sound, his left arm had already been broken. With a miserable groan, he fell to a corner of the side hall, and his face was deathly pale. Highness Yin, be careful. No, the dragon serpent is too fast. Qin Yin said. Lin Muyu had already moved forward with her sword, and the wall of the gourd protected the front of Qin Yin. As expected, the dragon serpent's devouring attack and whipping tail came one after another. With 3 consecutive bangs, the wall of the winter gourd was instantly shattered, and Lin Muyu felt a sweet taste in her throat as she crashed into the wall behind her. She was in a sorry state. Feng Jixing's broken left arm hung low, and with his right hand holding the blade, he stood up again. His gaze landed on the dragon serpent's neck, and suddenly, his eyes lit up. He said, One of the scales on its back has been corroded. It must have been corroded by the Imperial Army's acid. I'll hold the dragon serpent back, and you think of a way to pin it to the ground so that it can't dig or move again. Lin Muyu struggled to get up from the ground, and nodded with a disheveled expression. Not far away, a group of Imperial Army soldiers stood there, but no one dared to go forward. A 10,000-year-old spiritual beast and 3 Heaven Realm elites. This was not a battle that belonged to them, and if they went forward, they would just be cannon fodder. Chapter 162. Streams of wind blades swirled around the wind slasher saber. When the dragon serpent opened its mouth to devour, Feng Jixing suddenly waved his saber and quickly created a hurricane. Instantly, this hurricane directly washed away half of the roof of the side hall. This was one of his famous ultimate moves, Berserk Saber Storm. Every point in the storm seemed to be mixed with the sharpness of an invincible blade. The violent wind swept the dragon snake's head, and in the blink of an eye, the scales on the dragon snake's head were swept away. But, it still couldn't break through the armor. Bang! The dragon snake's heavy bite attack was neutralized by Feng Jixing's blade, and he himself vomited blood and fell into the corner of the jagged wall. However, it also seemed to confirm his promise to restrain Lin Muyu. Whoosh! Stepping on the starlight, Lin Muyu forcibly gathered the battle energy around her and used the falling star steps to jump onto the dragon snake's back. She quickly found the wound that Feng Jixing mentioned. However, when she was still a short distance away, the dragon snake had already raised its head and stared at her with a pair of emotionless eyes. I'll restrain it. On the ground, Qin Yin let out a soft cry. She suddenly raised her right hand and condensed her left hand into a finger. She lowered her head and muttered to herself. Her battle energy flowed rhythmically, and the long sword hummed. The god-binding chains also began to vibrate rhythmically around her body. That's right, it was a rhythm similar to the sound of a zither. Just like her name, Qin Yin, this sound wave attack turned into a substantial force and went straight for the dragon snake's brain. Hua! An invisible attack directly penetrated the armor. The dragon snake was instantly stunned. It shook its head frantically and pounced on Qin Yin in the next moment. Bang! Qin Yin spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. She had also lost her sword. Her face was deathly pale, and she had lost the ability to resist. Lin Muyu took advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to leap up. She reached into her cosmos sack and grabbed the hard and cold spear handle. With a "wang" sound, she pulled it out. A miraculous scene occurred. She pulled out a spear that was at least 2 meters long from the small cosmos sack. It was the pear blossom spear. She held the spear with both hands and thrust it into the corroded wound on the back of the dragon snake. Pooh! Blood splattered everywhere. The spear had pierced a small part of its body, but there was still a large part outside. No matter what, the spear could not pierce through. It was as if there was some kind of defensive layer in the dragon snake's body. Gritting his teeth, he decided to go all out. Leaping up once again, he raised both his fists in the air. Around his fists, streams of celestial bodies condensed, and an incomparably violent strike went straight for the handle of the pear blossom spear. 3 luminaries calamity. Bang! It was a clean strike. The 3 luminaries' power was infused into the spear handle, and the pear blossom spear immediately pierced into the dragon snake's body. With a "kacha" sound, the spearhead had already pierced into the rocks on the ground. He felt a sense of emptiness in his body. After using the 3 luminaries calamity twice in a row, he was almost at his limit. However, when he looked up, he discovered that the front half of the dragon snake's body was crazily twisting as it charged toward Qin Yin. It opened its mouth and was about to swallow this empire's princess. Lin Muyu did not have time to consider anything. He dove down in a few steps and opened his arms to hug Qin Yin. However, it seemed like it was too late. There was a fishy smell behind him, and in the blink of an eye, it was already dark. He and Qin Yin had entered a fishy and dark space. They had been swallowed by a huge snake. Qin Yin was already severely injured. She opened her eyes weakly, but she could not see anything. She could only feel Lin Muyu's warm embrace. She called out softly, "You." Lin Muyu hugged her tightly. "Don't open your eyes. The dragon snake has venom in its body, and it will blind your eyes. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. We were just eaten by the snake." It was easy for him to say, but he had long wanted to die. Qin Yin closed her eyes and buried her face in Lin Muyu's neck. However, after the two of them entered the intestines of the dragon snake, there seemed to be barbs on the walls of the intestines, and they kept sliding down. Both she and Lin Muyu knew that if they went any further, there would be a pool of acid. That was where the dragon snake melted its food. In the blink of an eye, the lack of air made it difficult for Qin Yin to breathe. She quickly lost consciousness, and the arm that was hugging Lin Muyu was about to let go. Lin Muyu's heart was in a mess. He could not let Qin Yin die like this. Otherwise, all his efforts would be in vain. He hurriedly used his martial soul. Immediately, the gourd vines passed through the scales of the dragon snake, and the gourd leaves bloomed on the outside, absorbing the fresh air outside. His martial soul and physique merged into one, and the fresh air was absorbed by Lin Muyu in the blink of an eye. In the enclosed space full of the dragon snake's gastric juice and acid, Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's face and kissed her red lips, passing the fresh air to her. Qin Yin's delicate body trembled slightly. Her last consciousness let her know what had happened. Lin Muyu was using his life to save her life. Furthermore, this was her first kiss. Although she liked this man, this space was so inappropriate. Not to mention the fact that they were surrounded by the dragon snake's gastric juice, there was also a pile of broken limbs and blood. She could even feel the corpse of an Imperial Army soldier behind her. No matter how she looked at it, this scene could not be considered romantic. What a pity. The romantic first kiss that a young girl had been looking forward to for 20 years was completed in such a shameful manner. Lin Muyu naturally did not know what Qin Yin was thinking. He and she were still being hooked by the dragon snake's intestines and sent down to the lower layers. They were about to be digested. He hugged Qin Yin tightly with one hand, and his other hand grabbed everywhere. Suddenly, with a "pa" sound, he seemed to have grabbed onto something as hard as iron. It was the handle of the pear blossom spear, a life-saving straw. He suddenly exerted strength in his arm and slowly spat out his battle chi. He gave an order with his thoughts, and the purgatory chains attacked. Come out, Ice Qilin. The 11,000-year spear spirit Ice Qilin pounced out of the spear with a furious roar. Its sharp claws quickly tore everything in the dragon snake's stomach. Although it was only a short-lived attack, it completely destroyed the dragon snake's internal organs and froze everything around it with frost. This made Lin Muyu and Qin Yin stay here, and they were not sent into the dragon snake's stomach. His strength was quickly overdrawn. This time, even Lin Muyu himself had difficulty breathing. The consecutive bitter battles had almost exhausted all his strength. Fortunately, the surrounding liquid had already frozen. Qin Yin, who was in his arms, was no longer moving. She had fainted, and it was unknown whether she was dead or alive. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh at himself. Suddenly, he felt dizzy, and he fainted while hugging Qin Yin. What's going on? A group of Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards rushed into the side hall of the West Courtyard with torches in their hands. Qin Jin walked in surrounded by the crowd, but he was shocked to see the huge dragon snake's corpse lying in front of him. There was still the dragon snake's beast spirit lingering in the air. Qin Jin's heart was in a mess, and he shouted, "Xiao Yin! Xiao Yin, where is she?" The maids were so frightened that they did not dare to speak. In the corner, Feng Jixing, who was seriously injured, muttered, "Her Highness Yin and you were both swallowed by the dragon snake. Hurry, cut open the dragon snake's abdomen, and they might still be saved." "Hurry!" Qin Lei, who was covered in blood, leaped forward with the thunder-split saber in hand. He fiercely slashed a few times with the saber, but the hard scales of the dragon snake were repelled. Qin Jin gritted his teeth, raised his hand, and threw his sword to Qin Lei. "Ah Lei, use my Desolation Sword." The Desolation Sword, a 6th-tier Saint-grade sword, was known as the strongest weapon in Lanyan City. Pa! Qin Lei held the Desolation Sword with both hands and muttered to himself. His god-binding chain's martial soul lingered around the Desolation Sword, and immediately, the Saint-grade sword glowed with a dazzling light. Accompanied by Qin Lei's movements, the sword cut open the dragon snake scales with a ka-ka-ka sound. In the blink of an eye, a huge bloody hole was torn open, and the scene inside was immediately revealed to everyone. Icy mist rose, and the blood condensed into ice. Amidst the severed limbs, Lin Muyu maintained the posture of holding Qin Yin tightly. He flipped over and landed on the ground from within the dragon snake's abdomen. The white battle robe behind him had already been dyed the color of blood, and there were shards of ice on his face. Qin Yin, on the other hand, buried her face in Lin Muyu's chest, not moving at all. Xiao Yin. Qin Jin's entire body trembled, and tears instantly flowed down his face. You. Chu Huayin looked at Lin Muyu in pain, and he clenched his fists tightly. However, Qin Lei furrowed his brows and said, "Your Majesty, is Her Highness still breathing?" Qin Jin took a step forward and wanted to hug Qin Yin, but he was unable to separate her from Lin Muyu's embrace. He hurriedly said, "Quickly, melt their ice, and quickly save Her Highness." "Yes." Chu Huayin flew forward, ignoring the bloody wound on his shoulder. With a low shout, he covered Lin Muyu and Qin Yin's bodies with his palms. His battle energy rapidly increased, and it turned into a warm and gentle force that seeped into their bodies. Among everyone present, Qin Lei and Feng Jixing's power was too overbearing. Only Chu Huayin's power leaned towards the gentle side, and it wouldn't hurt the two who were already sealed in ice. As the ice and snow rapidly melted, Qin Yin gently leaned against Lin Muyu's chest. Her body slowly twitched, and she slowly opened her eyes. She had actually woken up even faster than Lin Muyu. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw that Lin Muyu's eyes were tightly shut, and her face was ashen. Qin Yin thought that Lin Muyu had already died, and she couldn't help but feel sorrow. Tears flowed out of her eyes as she said, You can't die, you." Chu Huayin tugged at her from the side and said, "Your Highness." Qin Yin immediately pushed him away angrily. "Don't touch me, don't touch me." Chu Huayin angrily touched his nose. "Your Highness, you isn't dead yet. He's still breathing, ah." Qin Yin immediately put away her fierce expression and smiled at Lin Muyu. She cupped his face and said, If you aren't dead, can you answer me?" Cough cough, Lin Muyu suddenly coughed violently and coughed out the blood clot in her throat. She frowned and said, "Xiao Yin, my chest hurts because of you." Qin Yin looked down and realized that she was in a mess in the dragon snake's stomach. Her clothes were already in disarray, and she no longer looked like a princess. Her clothes had slid down, and her two blood-stained peaks were pressed tightly against Lin Muyu's chest armor. Her figure was already very impressive, and her two peaks were naturally not light. It was no wonder that Lin Muyu would say that her chest hurt. In an instant, the proud princess's face turned red. She scrambled to her feet and tightened her cloak. She said, "Hurry up and help you up. Let's see how his injuries are." In the corner, Feng Jixing lay there weakly. His eyes were filled with hidden bitterness as he casually said, "Who's more injured than me? Why doesn't anyone care about me?" Chu Huayin walked forward. "Sai, I'm here to care about you. Go away." Chapter 163. Taking in large mouthfuls of fresh air, Lin Muyu's martial soul's power was like a dried-up pool of water, and at this time, after escaping, it finally began to gather into a stream bit by bit. After about 5 minutes, her complexion looked much better, but the wounds on her body looked a little scary. Qin Jin supported Qin Yin's arm and asked with concern, "Xiao Yin, are your injuries serious?" "Not serious, father doesn't need to worry too much." Qin Yin tidied up her long hair that was covered in mucus and pouted, "But I need to find a place to take a bath. My body is so dirty and uncomfortable." "Imperial father, can I borrow your central courtyard to take a bath?" Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. "Someone, bring Her Highness to the central courtyard to take a bath." "Yes." Qin Yin turned to look at Lin Muyu and said, Wait for me to tidy myself up before coming to see you." You are the same, your whole body is dirty, quickly go and take a bath." "Yes, Your Highness." Lin Muyu smiled respectfully. Qin Jin raised his eyebrows and said, "Someone, bring Lin Muyu to the west courtyard to take a bath and prepare a new set of Imperial Guard armor for him." Yes, Your Majesty. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huijin and the others walked over one after another and asked about Lin Muyu's injuries. He was covered in blood and looked too scary. No matter how they looked, he didn't look fine. Are you sure you're okay? Chu Huijin frowned and said, Look at you, it seems like you will die at any time. Don't force yourself. If anything happens to you, I won't be able to explain it to Yao. Don't worry. Lin Muyu patted the broken breastplate on his chest and smiled, My body is fine. Oh right, I sent a letter to Sister Chu Yao and asked her to warn you guys as soon as possible. Did you guys receive the news? Qin Lei nodded his head. I did receive the news, but it was slightly late. Miss Chu Yao came to inform me on her own. This, you tell her yourself. As he spoke, Qin Lei moved aside. Behind him was shockingly Chu Yao, who was dressed in a pure and clean spirit medicine department attire. Lin Muyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Older sister, why did you come by yourself? Isn't it possible to pass messages through Yushu? Chu Yao's beautiful eyes were filled with reproach and worry as she said, You're still talking about it. I didn't tame a second messenger bird, so I had to rush here myself. The spiritual medicine department didn't have any extra warhorses, so I spent a month's salary to buy one. I didn't expect you to be ahead of me. Lin Muyu was slightly embarrassed as she said, There was no other way. I was worried that something would happen in Deer Garden, so I directly went to the Eagle Nest camp and mobilized 300 people to rush over as reinforcements. Not far away, Qin Jin said with an extremely dignified smile, Lin Muyu, it's all thanks to the timely arrival of your 300 men from the Eagle Nest camp. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I and the other ministers would have been buried under the swords of the rebels from the House of Chivalry. Your Majesty has a flood of good fortune. Nothing will happen to you. After saying that, Lin Muyu almost had goosebumps. She thought to herself, when did she learn to say such flattering words? Qin Jin casually said a few words, then led the ministers to the central courtyard to discuss matters. Lin Muyu found the burning prairie sword and forcefully dug out the spirit stone of the 12,300-year-old dragon snake. Then, she pulled out the pear blossom spear from the dragon snake's body, washed it, and put it into her cosmos sack. Then, accompanied by Chu Yao, Chu Huiying, and Feng Jixing, she went to the western courtyard to take a bath. The few people who had gone through the battle all needed to take a bath and wash up. After all, each of them had a relatively special identity and status. It was a mistake for the people around the emperor to not be properly groomed. Brother Feng, this burrowing dragon, is dead. What about the white crane? Lin Muyu asked as they walked. Feng Jixing muttered to himself, then said, Qin Lei, Chu Huiying, and the other imperial guards surrounded the white crane. They used all kinds of weapons, and even used fire attacks. Finally, they forced the white crane to escape. Now, the white crane's whereabouts are unknown. Oh, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. She said, I didn't expect that we actually didn't catch a single leader this time. The white crane escaped, and so did Ji Yang and Li Qianxuan. I've been undercover at the headquarters of the House of Chivalry for so long, but in the end, I still couldn't find their assassination intentions. Is it as simple as changing the ruler of the empire? A cautious look flashed across Feng Jixing's face. He said, this matter, let's report it to His Majesty later. The House of Chivalry has been making things difficult for us again and again. It's time for us to take action. Yes. In the West Court, the bathing spot was actually also a hot spring. This was because this villa was built on a natural hot spring. When Lin Muyu took off her armor, Chu Yao stood at the side. She had no intention of leaving. She looked at the crisscrossed wounds on Lin Muyu's body and frowned slightly. She said, your body. Lin Muyu looked down and couldn't help but smile. She said, it's okay. I'll temper my skin a little and there won't be any scars left. It won't affect my beauty. Don't leave any hidden injuries or partial disabilities. Hurry up and take a bath. After that, come to me. I'll give you a massage. Massage? Lin Muyu's eyes widened. She couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. After taking a bath, she put on a tight-fitting shirt and went outside. Chu Yao was waiting there. She took out her silver needles and pouted. Lie down. Oh, Lin Muyu lay down according to her words. Chu Yao immediately inserted 7 or 8 silver needles into the acupoints. Then, she opened her fingers. A faint green true energy was enshrouded between her fingers. It gently flowed through Lin Muyu's meridians. Suddenly, a refreshing and comfortable feeling spread throughout her body. The blockage in her meridians was slowly eliminated by Chu Yao. What kind of treatment is this? Lin Muyu was surprised. She said, Sister Chu Yao, in my hometown, there are many girls who are good at massaging, but there is no one who has such a brilliant technique. Chu Yao chuckled. She said, Idiot you, how is this a massage technique? This is the divine oracle hand recorded in the God of Medicine's tome. It's a superb technique that can cure internal diseases through the skin. As a member of the spiritual medicine department, I naturally can't just learn alchemy. The divine oracle hand is enough to make me an excellent medical officer. That's great, Lin Muyu said cheerfully. If I have my own army in the future, I'll definitely hire you as the chief medical officer with a high salary. Really? Chu Yao giggled. She said, I'm not only good at alchemy and the divine oracle hand. I've already mastered using fire and wind for your 4-elemental sword control. However, I'm still not good enough with lightning and water. In time, I'll not only be an excellent medical officer, but also an excellent general. Oh, you're quite open-minded. Lin Muyu couldn't help but tease. Chu Yao looked at Lin Muyu's strong muscles and finally blushed. She said, All right, put on your armor. Your body is basically fine now. Remember to apply medicine. Okay. At this moment, Chu Huaying and Feng Jixing had also returned from bathing. Chu Huaying had already put on his armor and was extraordinarily handsome. Chu Yao's older brother was indeed an astonishingly handsome man, but Feng Jixing was less handsome than Chu Huaying and more carefree. He clutched his chest and limped as he said, Damn, the dragon snake that the pale crane tamed almost crippled me. My cultivation at the 2nd heavenly stage is indeed far from enough. Big brother Feng has reached the 2nd heavenly stage? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. That's right. Feng Jixing raised his hand and waved. Instantly, his battle chi turned into a piece of armor that stopped around his arm. He said with a smile, Didn't you see the battle armor that I condensed when I was fighting the dragon snake? Oh, I didn't pay much attention, brat. Feng Jixing pursed his lips and said with a smile, That's right. This is all thanks to your dream of the extreme. Otherwise, Qin Lei and I wouldn't have reached the Heavenly King stage so quickly. Thank you so much, you. You're welcome. That's right. Dream of the extreme is a recipe that has been lost for a long time. Furthermore, only Medicine King level medicine refiners can refine it. I'm afraid that even Miss Chu Yao might not be able to refine it. You. Brat, how many more skills do you have that you haven't shown us? Lin Muyu scratched her head awkwardly. Everyone has some secrets. Don't ask me about this. Besides, my medicine refinement skills are just some small tricks that aren't worth mentioning. Big brother Feng, don't look into this. I won't harm you guys. That's true. Feng Jixing lay heavily on the bed. His face was a little pale. Indeed, his injuries were the heaviest. After all, he was the one who had fought the dragon serpent for the longest time. The 12,300-year-old dragon serpent was equivalent to a level 90 Saint Venerable. He, who had just become a level 70 Heavenly Venerable, was able to contend with the dragon serpent without dying. This was already a sign of his strength. Chu Huaying looked up and said, "Yao, heal General Feng's injuries." His martial soul is the purple electric flame wolf. It's an idiot that's only good at attacking but not good at self-healing. It can't be compared to Yu's gourd. Feng Jixing grinned. Damn it. Whose martial soul are you calling an idiot? Your purple marten is the idiot. Chu Yao raised her hand. The purple marten martial soul emerged from her body and stood on her shoulder. She smiled and said, "Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing, if you say that the purple marten is an idiot, then I won't heal your injuries." Feng Jixing hurriedly changed his words. He smiled and said, "I'm saying that Chu Huaying's purple marten is an idiot. Miss Chu Yao's purple marten is obviously very smart." Chu Yao giggled. She applied some medicine to Feng Jixing's wounds. Then, she used the Holy Oracle's hand to open up the blockages in his blood vessels and the injuries in his joints. She also bandaged Feng Jixing's wounds and put a splint on his broken arm. Speaking of which, Feng Jixing was indeed a tough guy. His arm had been broken for so long, but it was still hanging on his shoulder. He actually didn't cry out in pain at all. Not long after, an official walked in and said, "Commander Feng Jixing, Lord Chu Huaying, and Lord Lin Muyu, His Majesty has summoned you to the central courtyard to discuss matters. Please follow me." "Yes." Chu Huaying turned around and smiled at Chu Yao. "We'll be back soon. Is Yao waiting for us here?" "No, I'll wait for you outside the central courtyard." "All right." Chapter 164. The main hall of the central garden was the most solemn and dignified hall in the entire Deer Garden Palace. At this moment, many officials had gathered, and the outside of the main hall was heavily protected by the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards. After the assassination attempt by the House of Chivalry, Feng Jixing once again mobilized the nearby 10,000 Imperial Guards to protect the Emperor and Princess in Deer Garden. He did not dare to be careless again. The officials stood on both sides. Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and Lin Muyu, who were dressed in white robes and armor, slowly entered the main hall in a triangular formation. They stepped on the blood-red carpet and walked all the way to the place closest to the Emperor, Qin Jin. They saluted in unison and said, "Greetings, Your Majesty." Lin Muyu secretly rejoiced. After entering Lanyan City, she immediately became a soldier. This was a good thing. Even when she saw the Emperor, she only needed to salute and did not need to kneel. She was not like those civil officials who knelt at the drop of a hat. They had no moral integrity at all. Qin Jin smiled and nodded. At ease. Qin Yin stood beside her father and smiled at Lin Muyu. She stuck out her tongue when the officials lowered their heads and did not dare to look. As the most beautiful woman in the empire, she was still so beautiful even when she made a face. Chu Huaying could not help but laugh secretly. His shoulders trembled. Feng Jixing immediately turned to look at him and said, "Old Chu, be more serious." Lin Muyu suppressed her smile and looked up at Qin Yin. She raised her eyebrows slightly. Pfft. Instead, it was the princess who laughed. She did not look serious at all. Cough cough, Qin Jin turned to look at his precious daughter, but he could not bear to blame her. He coughed and said, "These traitors from the House of Chivalry actually dared to sneak attack Deer Garden in the middle of the night. This is simply outrageous. I have decided to launch a nationwide campaign to exterminate the traitors from the House of Chivalry. I will immediately send a letter to all the provincial governors. I want all the houses of chivalry in the country to be razed to the ground within a month. Your Majesty is wise." The officials cheered. Qin Jin heaved a sigh of relief and said, "This time, the Saint Realm Ashen Crane actually participated in the rebellion. Fortunately, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, and the other generals risked their lives to protect us. Otherwise, Her Highness Yin and I would have been killed. I understand. The person who contributed the most in this rescue mission is Lin Muyu. If he had not disobeyed Eagle Guard Commander Meng Fong's order and led 300 Eagle Guard warriors to reinforce us, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Looking at Lin Muyu, Qin Jin's eyes were filled with praise as he asked, Lin Muyu, what kind of reward do you want? Lin Muyu was startled and said, Your Majesty, this lowly general has not thought of a reward. The officials laughed loudly, and Qin Jin laughed as well. You have saved us and the officials, and even risked your life to save Her Highness Yin from the belly of a dragon or snake. You have already established an unparalleled merit. If we do not reward you with something, it would seem that our Qin Empire does not have the heart to select talents and appoint people with ability. Speak, do you want wealth or an official title? Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and thought for a long time. She said, Your Majesty, I do not lack wealth. As for an official title, I have yet to fully understand the classification of the Empire's official titles, so it is not good for me to ask for anything. Whatever Your Majesty wants to give, this lowly general will gladly accept. Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh loudly. What a good Lin Muyu. Your personality is quite similar to that of Lord Huading Chu Chu. As he spoke, Qin Jin looked at Qin Yin and said, Shao Yin, what do you think father should reward Lin Muyu with? Qin Yin blinked her eyes and said with a smile, He does not have the experience to lead troops, so it is not suitable for him to be given a high rank. In my opinion, bestow him the rank of Xiang Dragon General. Then, appoint him as the commander of the Eagle Nest Camp and give him the title of Zhe Tian Palace's envoy. What does Imperial Father think? Good. Qin Jin smiled and said, Lin Muyu, do you accept Her Highness Yin's suggestion? Lin Muyu nodded. I will listen to Shao Yin. Qin Jin laughed and said in a clear voice, Lin Muyu, listen to me. We will immediately promote you to Xiang Dragon General and give you the salary of a Xiang Dragon General. You will also be promoted to the commander of the Eagle Nest Camp. That brute Meng Fong will be sent to the border to be a Xiang Dragon General. Thank you, Your Majesty. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and bowed respectfully. Feng Jixing held back his laughter and said, Congratulations, you. There are a total of 3 commanders in the Royal Guards. 1 for the Dragon Guards, 1 for the Tiger Guards, and 1 for the Eagle Guards. You are now one of the 3 commanders. Your rank is the same as that old brat Chu Huayin. Chu Huayin was the commander of the Dragon Guards. At this point, 2/3 of the Royal Guards were under the control of Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin. After that, Qin Jin also rewarded Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huayin, and the others. The rewards were in the form of Jinin coins, fertile land, and so on. The 3 of them had relatively high ranks of nobility. Lin Muyu stood quietly at the side. In reality, her rank was not enough to attend such a hearing. After all, the Xiang Dragon General was only the 6th rank out of the 14 ranks of the Empire's military. There were still 5 ranks above her, namely Deputy General, Eastern Suppression General, State Protector General, State Suppression General, and Commander General. However, it was already not bad. After all, there were still 8 ranks below her, namely Brigadier General, Feather Colonel, Valiant Cavalry Colonel, Halberd Captain, Sergeant, and Sergeant. Moreover, this Xiang Dragon General was directly under the command of Lanyan City. The central government was much stronger than the local government. The real power in their hands was completely different. A small lieutenant in the central government could be treated as a general in the border army. This was not a rare occurrence. After the rewards, Qin Jin held the Desolation Sword in his hand and said, Now, let's discuss how to eradicate the rebellious forces of the House of Chivalry. State Protector General Yu Wenxia stepped out and cupped his fists. Your Majesty, the House of Chivalry's forces are very complicated in the Empire. They have their headquarters and branches everywhere. It is said that the House of Chivalry can be found in all the major cities in the Empire. The total number of members who are above the level of lone swordsman has already exceeded 3 million. Therefore, the eradication of the House of Chivalry requires long-term planning. Long-term planning? Qin Lei raised his eyebrows and said, General Yuan, the henchmen of the House of Chivalry almost killed Your Majesty and Her Highness Yin. Do we still need long-term planning? Tell me, isn't the world the Qin family's world? If Your Majesty says to eradicate them, then they must be eradicated. There is no room for negotiation. Yuan Xia was stunned. Commander Qin Lei, that is not what I mean. I am only saying that this matter needs to be done slowly and cannot be rushed. Qin Jin said, stop arguing. Feng Jixing, you are the most reliable and experienced in handling matters. Tell me, what do you think we should do? Yes, Your Majesty. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and a glint of light flashed across his eyes. It is very simple. First, eradicate the House of Chivalry within the Lanyan city of the imperial capital. Then, send out elite soldiers and generals to expand outwards. First, pacify the House of Chivalry in the few provinces in the north and maintain the stability of the north. After that, expand to the provinces in the south. No matter how deep the roots of the House of Chivalry are, we will definitely be able to uproot them. Qin Jin nodded and smiled. All right, then I will leave this matter to you to handle. Yes. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, I have a presumptuous request. I hope that Your Majesty can agree to it. Speak. I want 2 people. Oh? Which 2? Qin Jin was stunned. Feng Jixing smiled. Lin Muyu and Chu Huaying. These 2 imperial guards are smart and capable. If I have their assistance in pacifying the House of Chivalry, I will be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. All right, approved. Thank you, Your Majesty. Feng Jixing was overjoyed. Lin Muyu pursed her lips and said softly, if you want people so badly, why don't you ask whether Brother Chu Huaying and I are willing? Do you still have any human rights? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said in a low voice, Rascal, Brother Feng needs your help now. If you don't help me, who else will? Besides, I, Feng Jixing, am on a mission to annihilate the House of Chivalry. Do you know how many people are waiting to see me make a fool of myself? If I fail, I might be impeached. I might not even be able to keep my position as the commander of the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu snickered. That's perfect. You can join my mercenary group and be a 10-man squad leader. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Feng Jixing was speechless. Chu Huaying cupped his fists and snickered. It looks like, the 2 of you are not ordinary people. Feng Jixing was speechless. Lin Muyu was speechless. After the meeting, the emperor announced that the meeting was dismissed and that they would return to Lanyan City in the afternoon. The officials dispersed. Lin Muyu was about to leave when an attendant suddenly walked up to her and said with a smile, Lady Lin Muyu, His Majesty invites you to the rear hall to speak. Oh? Lin Muyu followed him. When she arrived at the rear hall, Qin Jin and Qin Yin were both there. Qin Yin was still dressed like a princess, but Qin Jin had taken off his dragon robe and was dressed in plain clothes. He said with a smile, Lin Muyu, do you know why I have summoned you here? I don't know. Lin Muyu answered honestly. Qin Jin smiled. I heard that you lost your memory when you were in Silver Fir City. You don't remember who you are or who your family is. What about now? Do you still remember? Lin Muyu was taken aback. She replied, I still don't remember. Good. Qin Jin waved his sleeves and said with a smile, I want to adopt you as my son. How about it? Adopted son? Lin Muyu was stunned. Dragon-seeking forest. Before dawn, the mountain was cold and cheerless. Accompanied by rustling sounds, an old man emerged from a nameless cave. His face was covered in dirt, and he carried a bamboo basket on his back. The basket was filled with rare herbs. He had a smug look on his face as he chuckled. "I've even found a grade 8 herb. Humph, let's see if that brat you still dares to mock me, Choo-Choo, for not knowing anything about medicine." He strode as if he was flying, heading straight for Deer Cry Park. At this moment, the sound of hooves could be heard from the foot of the mountain. A black warhorse was galloping on the mountain path with its scorching breath. On the warhorse, an old man was holding an iron staff in his hand. His entire body was covered in blood, and his white hair and beard were stained with blood. Without a doubt, this blood belonged to the royal guards and royal army. Zhang Baihe only had less than 30% of his fighting aura left in his body. His eyes were a little dazed, and his face was full of hatred. He muttered to himself, "I didn't expect Qin Lei to have stepped into the second level of the heavenly realm. Damn Qin Lei, damn God-binding chains. If it wasn't for him, I'm afraid I would have already succeeded. It's just a pity that my dragon snake is gone just like that." However, at this moment, a scorching hot domain suddenly appeared in the air. Zhang Baihe raised his head abruptly, and saw a huge flaming palm descending from the sky. The powerful pressure of the Saint Realm descended, and at the same time, Choo-Choo's dignified voice could be heard. "Zhang Baihe, you could have taken the road to heaven, but you chose to barge into the doorless hell." Chapter 165. Adopted Son. Lin Muyu looked at Qin Jin in bewilderment. Qin Jin smiled faintly. "Actually, the real reason is that you saved Xiao Yin twice, so we have decided to let Xiao Yin recognize you as her sworn brother. However, if you are unwilling, then forget it." Qin Yin stood in front of Lin Muyu, her hands crossed in front of her. Her beautiful eyes shone with hope, yet she did not dare to look at Lin Muyu. By the time Qin Jin finished speaking, her pretty face was already completely red. Lin Muyu was startled, but did not think too much about it. She smiled and said, "Then let's do it. Having a younger sister like Her Highness Yin is my life's greatest wish." "Is that so?" Qin Jin could not help but smile. "Good. Then from now on, you are my, Qin Jin's, adopted son, and a member of the Qin family. Are you willing to change your surname to Qin?" "Can I not change it?" Lin Muyu asked. Qin Jin laughed heartily. "Yes. Many thanks to your majesty for granting my wish." Qin Jin was clearly in a good mood. He placed his palm on Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, You are a talent. From now on, you will be a member of the family. A member of the Qin family who does not share the same surname will bring you courage and glory. However, you must also pledge your loyalty and oath to the family. Go, Xiao Yin will help you take the oath to join the family. After that, I will have someone write your name into the Qin family's genealogy book." From the side, Qin Yin walked over with a smile and reached out to hold Lin Muyu's hand. When their fingers interlocked, the warmth from Qin Yin's little hand caused Lin Muyu to be a little dazed. Qin Yin's face was also bright red as she said, I will have to call you Big Brother from now on, then, Big Brother come with me. All right. In a corner of the rear hall, the memorial tablets of the family's ancestors were enshrined. In the most conspicuous position, there was a memorial tablet with the words, Founding Emperor Qin Yi's Memorial Tablet, written on it. Lin Muyu couldn't help feeling a little surprised. She asked, Xiao Yin, Qin Yi, how many years has it been since he passed away? Qin Yin was stunned and said, Qin Yi was our ancestor and the first master of the Qin Empire to step into the divine state. With his divine state strength and military strategy, he united the 11 countries on the mainland that had been at war for many years and created the prosperity of the Qin Empire. It is said that he retired after the founding of the empire and then went on a spiritual journey for thousands of years, so here is his memorial tablet. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu couldn't help but recall the scene when she transmigrated to this dimension. She saw Qin Yi leading hundreds of immortal state and sanctuary powerhouses to fight the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Qin Yi was indeed dead at that time. He was devoured by the power of the 7 glorious stars transformation. Thinking about it, this memorial tablet was indeed suitable to worship. Alright, big brother, you kneel properly. Qin Yi and Lin Muyu knelt together in front of the memorial tablet of the empire's ancestors. The smile on her face disappeared and she said very seriously, the family has 32 words, which is also the foundation and family rule for the Qin family to be able to dominate the mainland. I say one sentence, and big brother you will say one sentence after Xiao Yin, okay? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded lightly. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and scattered the princess cloak behind her. Her beautiful eyes looked at the memorial tablets one after another, yearning and confusion in her eyes. Then, she said one word at a time, calm and unperturbed, no matter when or where, fearless in the face of danger and indifferent to favor or disgrace, revenge must be taken. A gentleman is modest, but if there is an enemy, he must take revenge, rather die than submit. Life and death are up to the heavens. A proud and unyielding character will never live without purpose. Be open-minded like a valley, like flowing water and floating clouds, supercilious and caring for the world. A promise is worth its weight in gold. A promise must be kept, words must be spoken cautiously, and words must be said. Take the lead, valiant in battle, leading the charge and breaking through enemy lines. Be courteous to the wise, holding a high position, being humble and able to convince people with virtue, unswervingly loyal, wholeheartedly serving the country, treading on blades and drinking blood without regrets. 32 words of proverb were, in fact, keep calm, seek revenge, rather die than surrender, be open-minded, keep your word, take the lead, be courteous, and be loyal. Lin Muyu carefully thought about these 32 words. There had to be a reason why the Qin family was able to survive for so long. These 32 words indeed represented a kind of spirit. In other words, these 32 words represented a kind of civilization. It was just that when it was put into practice, it had gone astray. That was why there was such unreasonable things as the concubine system. After saying this, Qin Yin stood up, held Lin Muyu's shoulder, and said with a smile, Big brother you, from now on, you are a member of our Qin family. Always remember the family's teachings. Yes, I will. Lin Muyu nodded. These 32 words were indeed worthy of being his code of conduct. Moreover, he would carry them out to the letter. This was his attitude. Qin Jin watched all of this from the back, and said with a smile, all right, since you is now a member of our family, then, why don't you stay for breakfast? Yes, your majesty. Qin Jin was immediately displeased, and said, since we have already recognized you as my godson, why don't you change the way you address me? Lin Muyu was stunned, and then felt that it was a little awkward, so she said, what should I call you? Qin Yin burst into laughter, call me father after me. Lin Muyu, in the end, he still called him father like Qin Yin, which made Qin Jin smile happily. His face was full of wrinkles, and this emperor was only close to 50 years old, but his face was already showing signs of age. Firstly, it had to do with his insufficient cultivation, and secondly, it was probably because he had been tormented to this extent by the affairs of this huge empire. Although Qin Jin was weak, he was definitely not a fatuous emperor, so it wasn't like she had recognized a traitor as her father, right? Lin Muyu thought to herself. Breakfast couldn't be considered too sumptuous, and there were only a few side dishes. However, after a busy night, Lin Muyu's stomach was already rumbling with hunger. She picked up the beef buns from the bowl and ate them in big bites, causing Qin Yin and Qin Jin to chuckle at the side. Qin Jin pushed the plate of beef buns in front of Lin Muyu, and said with a smile, "Eat more if you like it. When we return to Lanyan City, Father will personally cook for you and make beef buns from the White Cloud Tavern. I guarantee that they will be even better than the ones made by the head chef of the White Cloud Tavern." Lin Muyu was stunned. "Father, you know how to cook?" Qin Yin giggled. "Humph, don't you know that Father is known for having two talents? The first is poetry and painting, and the second is culinary skills. Let me tell you, even the best imperial chef in Zetian Palace can't cook as well as Father. Brother, you have to come back to Zetian Palace often, or else you won't have a chance to taste Father's cooking." All right." He was still trembling with fear and trepidation. As the saying went, being in the Emperor's company was like being with a tiger. Was the current Qin Jin still the same tiger-like Emperor? Or was he his adoptive father now? Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. Lin Muyu didn't understand, and she didn't understand. She would just take it one step at a time. Regardless of whether it was good or bad now, at least she had a home in this world. With a father like Qin Jin who was skilled in culinary skills and poetry, and a younger sister like Qin Yin who was sometimes unruly and sometimes considerate, it seemed like it wasn't bad at all. After a short rest in the morning, she followed the team back to Lanyan City in the afternoon. In Zetian Palace, during an afternoon meeting with the officials, Qin Jin publicly announced that he would recognize Lin Muyu as his adopted son. This instantly caused a huge commotion, and the officials were all stunned. It seemed like the Qin family hadn't had an emperor recognize an outsider as his adopted son for many years. The current Lin Muyu was already considered a proud son who was doted on by everyone. They really didn't know where this brat got his luck from. "Congratulations, Lord Lin Muyu. Congratulations, General. Congratulations, Lord, on becoming a member of the family." One by one, the officials congratulated Lin Muyu, and at the same time, he saw the person he didn't want to see the most. Zheng Yifan had also arrived, and he was still in good spirits. He smiled and said, "Congratulations, General Lin Muyu, on becoming His Majesty's adopted son. This is truly worthy of celebration. You're too kind, Divine Marquis. Now that General is His Majesty's adopted son, your future is bright. In the future, please take care of a small marquis like me." Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and said with a smile. Lin Muyu frowned and said with a smile, "Divine Marquis, you're too polite. You're the cornerstone of the empire. I'm just a boorish fellow." "Ha!" Zheng Yifan sneered and walked away. He put on a "you're right" look. Feng Jixing frowned as he looked at Zheng Yifan's back. He patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, To be honest, I'm really envious of you. I've served His Majesty for so many years, but I've never had such a rare encounter. You're the first adopted son of His Majesty, and the Qin family has never accepted descendants with other surnames. You can be considered a pioneer. Big Brother Feng, are you really congratulating me?" Lin Muyu asked in a low voice. Feng Jixing moved closer and also lowered his voice. He smiled and said, "I don't know why His Majesty accepted you as his adopted son, but at least it shows that he values your strength." "That's enough." Lin Muyu was taken aback. Was he just making use of her? No matter, whether it was using me or being sincere, Lin Muyu had his own judgment. At least he could confirm that Qin Yin really liked him. That was enough. He could not protect the empire, but at least he could protect Qin Yin. At this moment, an attendant's voice suddenly came from outside the hall, "Lord Chu Chu requests an audience." Everyone was stunned and quickly separated into two sides. Chu Chu strode into the hall with a black bundle in his hand. He had a faint smile on his face as he arrived at the bottom of the steps. He cupped his fists and said, "This old man, Chu Chu, came late to the rescue. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. Qin Jin was a virtuous monarch. He smiled and said, Chu Chu, you don't have to be like this. It's good that you're back. Oh right, did you pick the herbs you wanted? I did. Chu Chu's lips curled up. He smiled and said, moreover, I had an unexpected harvest that I wanted to present to Your Majesty. Oh, what is it? Qin Jin asked with a smile. Chu Chu immediately knelt on one knee and put down the bundle in his hand. He opened it layer by layer. When he opened the last layer, it was a bloody head. Moreover, the head's beard and hair were all white and stained with blood. Even its eyes were wide open, as if it had died with a grievance. Chu Chu turned around and looked at Zheng Yifan provocatively. He then cupped his fists and said, This old man encountered that old thief, Ashen Crane, when I was descending the mountain. I took care of him and presented his dog's head to Your Majesty. Qin Jin was overjoyed. Good. Good. Chu has already made a great contribution. In an instant, Zheng Yifan's face turned extremely pale and ugly. Chapter 166. After the discussion, they settled on the details of the expedition against the House of Chivalry. Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, and Chu Huayin busied themselves with gathering soldiers, weapons, and rations. As the emperor's godson, Lin Muyu did not linger in the Zetian Palace Hall for long. She had long since gone to Eagle Nest Mountain to gather the troops. Very soon, only Qin Jin, Qin Yin and her father, as well as Qin Lei, who was standing guard outside the door, were left in the large palace hall. Imperial Father. Qin Yin frowned slightly and asked in annoyance, Since you have adopted Big Brother Yu, why don't you give him a title? An adopted son who doesn't even have a title. Don't you think this is unfair to him? Title. Qin Jin slowly picked up a cup of tea and blew on it, but he did not drink it. He said, Shao Yin, Imperial Father only has you as his only child. If I were to give you a title, what title do you think he should be given? Should he be given the title of king? There are only two people in the empire who have been given the title of king. One is the Prince of Zhenan, Qin Yi, and the other is the Prince of Yuning, Qin Lian. They are both Imperial Father's brothers. If I were to confer the title of king on you, I would be going against the ancestors' rule, which states that outsiders cannot be conferred the title of king. Furthermore, even though Yu is brave and loyal, can you guarantee that he will not change in the future? Qin Yin was stunned. Her beautiful eyes revealed a hint of surprise. Imperial Father, are you worried that Big Brother Yu will fight with Shao Yin for the throne? Yes. His green-gourd martial spirit is only a 10th grade martial spirit, but it is so strong that it can contend against the Qin family's god-binding chains. Moreover, he is proficient in the art of alchemy, and it is said that he has the ability to refine medicine close to the level of an alchemy god. Moreover, you can defeat opponents with a higher cultivation base than him. Zhao Jin, Ouyang Qiu, Zhen Fang, and the others have all been defeated by him. Some people claim that Yu uses an extremely evil and domineering mysterious power, a power that no one has ever heard of before. Qin Jin then sighed softly and said, People will always change. No matter how nice he is to you now, it's only because of your talent and beauty. What do you think? Qin Yin stood there in a daze. After a while, she said, If I don't say any more. Qin Jin waved his hand and said gently, Shao Yin, be good. Don't make things difficult for Imperial Father. The matter of Lin Muyu being bestowed the title of king will end here. Don't mention it again. Even if he joins the Qin family, someone else's blood flows in his veins. As long as he has outstanding military achievements, Imperial Father can continue to promote him. It doesn't matter even if he becomes the Empire's marshal, but he will never be bestowed the title of king. Yes, Imperial Father, Qin Yin bit her red lips. A trace of loneliness flashed through her eyes. The power of an emperor was something she could not understand. Eagle Nest Mountain. The camp was in chaos. When Lin Muyu brought Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others to the Eagle Nest camp, the former commander Meng Fong was trembling as he held a black metal object. He said respectfully, "My lord, this is the Eagle Nest camp's tiger seal. Please take good care of it." "Commander, I didn't mean to replace you, I just..." Lin Muyu wanted to comfort him, but she didn't know where to start. Meng Fong shook his head and smiled. "No, this matter has nothing to do with anyone else. I was blind to actually stop you from bringing troops to reinforce Deer Cry Park. It was I, Meng Fong, who was muddle-headed. All right. I will leave the mountain immediately. As for the Eagle Nest camp, I hope that Lady Lin Muyu can take good care of it. This is the hard work of my brothers and I for many years." Lin Muyu smiled. "Don't worry, I will." Meng Fong led his warhorse and went down the mountain alone to the royal army to receive his orders. A dignified commander of a camp leaving alone like this did indeed seem very lonely. After watching Meng Fong leave, Lin Muyu turned to the group of royal guards and said, "All right, let's have a meeting." "Yes, my lord." Eagle Nest Mountain had a total of nearly 700 soldiers under her control. This gave Lin Muyu a sense of accomplishment that she had never felt before. God damn it, she was finally a person who held the power to decide life and death in her hands. A group of squad leaders and corporals of the royal guard stood on both sides. Two of them were very eye-catching, one was Gong Sun and the other was Su Gung. Because these two were former subordinates of the Divine Marquis residence, they were still members of the Divine Marquis residence. However, their presence in the Eagle Nest camp made people feel like they were out of place. Lin Muyu was someone who couldn't tolerate having a single grain of sand in her eyes. She took out a document and smiled. "Lord Gong Sun, Lord Su Gung, I have good news here. His Majesty has agreed to my order to promote the two of you to Centurions of the Divine Might Battalion. You can now go down the mountain and report to the Divine Might Battalion." "What?" Gong Sun's face was full of shock. We're going to the Divine Might Battalion? Lin Muyu, what's the meaning of this? Don't forget how long you've been in the Eagle Nest camp. Are you trying to kick us out the moment you arrive? Lin Muyu smiled. "This document has the golden seal of the Emperor's imperial seal on it. Anyone who resists will be executed. Men, escort Su Gung and Gong Sun down the mountain and erase their names from the Eagle Nest camp's roster." Yes. Now that Lin Muyu was in charge of the Tiger Tally of the Eagle Nest camp, she had a clear objective. She wanted to eliminate the opposing forces and make the Eagle Nest camp completely under her control. A few minutes later, Gong Sun and Su Gung also left the mountain with a simple salute. Lin Muyu immediately reorganized the Eagle Nest camp and promoted Wei Chou to deputy commander. She also promoted 4 centurions, each of whom would lead a team of 100 men. After everything was reorganized, the drums were sounded and everyone descended the mountain. More than 600 cavalrymen descended the mountain. The sound of the horses' hooves was deafening. When they arrived at the foot of the mountain, they could already see a large number of imperial guards waiting there from afar. They were the 5,000 men that Feng Jixing had gathered. In addition, there were also the 400 imperial guards that Chu Huaying had led. In total, there were more than 6,000 soldiers. They marched majestically towards the House of Chivalry's headquarters in the capital. Although they had been delayed for a long time, it was still not too late to attack the headquarters now. After marching for half a day, they arrived at the foot of the mountain at dusk. From afar, the loose swordsmen on the mountainside had already lit a bonfire. It seemed that they had not given up on the headquarters yet. There were about 100 men guarding the entrance of the mountain. "Attack the mountain!" Feng Jixing commanded and led the cavalrymen to charge forward. As they neared the entrance of the mountain, he brandished his saber and slashed out a powerful saber energy. Boom! The simple and crude entrance of the mountain was immediately split into two. More than 2,000 Imperial guards charged forward and slashed the 100 or so loose swordsmen into a mess. Let's go up as well. Lin Muyu waved her hand, and Wei Chou and the others immediately led the Eagle Nest Battalion to charge forward. They arrived ahead of the Imperial guards and killed their way to the headquarters of the House of Chivalry. Outside the headquarters, there were cries of anguish. Many of the loose swordsmen who had been injured during the operation last night were currently recuperating. How could they withstand the combined attack of the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards? Many of them knelt down and shouted at Lin Muyu, "Lin Yan, Master Game Envoy, please let us go. We don't know anything, we just want to eat." Chu Huaying frowned and asked, "What should we do with these loose swordsmen? Should we take them in and convert them into the Imperial Guards?" Feng Jixing raised his eyebrows and said proudly, "The warriors of the Imperial Guards are untainted by even a speck of dust. These scoundrels whose hands are stained with the blood of the commoners are not fit to join the Imperial Guards. Take them all down and put them into the border guards." Lin Muyu dismounted and stepped into the headquarters. She asked, "Where are Ji Yang and Li Qianxuan?" A silver venerable one had lost an arm. He panted heavily and said, "Envoy de Game Envoy and Envoy Liu left with their men at dawn today. We don't know where they are now. Some silver venerable ones and bronze venerable ones who can still move also left with them." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "If I'm not mistaken, the jewels on the mountain were also taken away, right? They took a small portion. There are still a lot of them on the mountain that they couldn't take away in time. Is that so? Someone, come and take inventory of the treasures in the headquarters." "Yes, Commander." Wei Chou searched for a while and ran back happily. He smiled and said, "Commander, there is a secret room under the headquarters. There are many treasures hidden in it. Do you want to take a look, sir?" "Yes," Lin Muyu nodded and looked at Chu Huaying and Feng Jixing. "Let's go and take a look together." "Okay." Lin Muyu walked in front with a torch in her hand. She was shocked when she entered the secret chamber. The House of Chivalry's headquarters had more gold hub coins than the Tianjing mercenary group. There were more than 100 boxes of gold hub coins, but all the diamond coins had been taken away. Many of the boxes that stored the gold hub coins had been smashed, and there were traces of people grabbing gold hub coins. Ji Yang and the others had left in a hurry and were afraid of being chased, so they didn't take too many gold hub coins with them. Otherwise, with Ji Yang's greed, he would have taken all the gold here. Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh. The House of Chivalry is really rich. Yes. Chu Huaying said excitedly. Look over there, there's an armory. Lin Muyu quickly flew over. There was indeed a large pile of superior-grade weapons there. There were spears, swords, axes, and so on. However, the profound-grade and spirit-grade weapons had been taken away by Ji Yang and his men. However, it was enough. These weapons could be used to equip ordinary soldiers. Humph. Chu Huaying opened a simple wooden box and smiled. I didn't expect Ji Yang to know about antiques and jade artifacts. This old man, there were jade bracelets, rings, necklaces, and other accessories in the box. There were also a few scrolls of calligraphy and paintings. It was obvious that they were paintings by famous people. However, the calligraphy in this world was something Lin Muyu couldn't understand. She opened one of the scrolls and glanced at it. It was really King ugly. Feng Jixing suddenly picked up a pure black thumb ring from the box. He smiled and said, What material is this thumb ring made of? It doesn't look like jade, and it looks very hard. As he spoke, he placed the thumb ring on the table, pulled out his saber, and slashed at it. With a dang sound, sparks flew in all directions. The saber was deflected, but the thumb ring was not damaged at all. Its surface was still glowing. At this moment, in Lin Muyu's Yi, Lulu's voice sounded. "Brother, this is the legendary Qingming stone. It's a type of spiritual jade and one of the hardest stones. Brother, you can refine the beast soul into this Qingming stone thumb ring. Then, you can refine this thumb ring into a spiritual artifact." Oh. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. She smiled and said, "Brother Feng, since this thumb ring is so hard, why don't you give it to me?" Feng Jixing grabbed a handful of gold coins and stuffed them into his pocket. When he was almost stuffed to the brim, he happily said, "All right, all right, all right. The thumb ring is yours, and the Jin coins are mine." "Damn, there are too many Jin coins here. Can I take some more?" Chu Huaying looked at him contemptuously. His meaning was self-evident. "You still have the nerve to be the commander of the Imperial Guards?" Chapter 167. Starlight shone on the mountain ridges. The Imperial Guards and Imperial Guard set up camp around the main altar to rest for the night. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Chu Huaying sat on a huge rock at the back of the mountain, drinking wine. Beside them, Wei Qiu had set up a bonfire and was roasting a leg of lamb. These were the spoils of war that they had plundered. It was evident how extravagant and decadent Ji Yang and Li Qianxuan's daily lives were. "Commander." A 1,000-man commander rode to the giant rock and cupped his fists. "We have gathered all the maids of the headquarters of the House of Chivalry. There are a total of 724 of them. How should we deal with them?" Feng Jixing asked, "How should we deal with them according to the laws of the Empire?" The 1,000-man commander smiled. "According to the laws of the Empire, these maids have served the rebels for a long time and have become unclean. They should be sent to the nursery to be trained as concubines and sent to the military camps." Lin Muyu frowned and asked, "Is there no other way?" "This. I don't know." Lin Muyu looked up at Feng Jixing and said, "Brother Feng, these maids were originally kidnapped from the nearby villages. They had no choice but to serve the rangers. Brother, you know what kind of place the nursery is. I think, why don't we dismiss these maids? If we send them to the nursery, it's like sending them from one hell of a fire to another." Feng Jixing thought for a while and said, You don't have to say anything. I know what to do." As he spoke, Feng Jixing ordered, "General Zhao, take out a portion of the Jinin coins we seized and distribute it to these maids. 50 gold coins each. Then, ask them one by one. If their families are still alive, send an Imperial Guard to escort them home. If their families are gone, bring them back to the capital and hand them over to the ICBC. At least, they can find a job as a maid. At least they won't lose their freedom and dignity." The 1,000-man commander surnamed Zhao cupped his fists and had a look of joy on his face. "Commander is wise. On behalf of these maidservants, I thank Commander for your grace of rebirth." Feng Jixing waved his hand and said, "Don't be a busybody. Hurry up and get to work. Tell those Imperial Army brothers to remember to come back. Humph. If anyone dares to not come back, I will capture them one by one and bring them back." "Ha, Lord Commander, you must be joking. How could our people not return? This subordinate will do it right away." Lin Muyu raised her wine pot and gently touched Feng Jixing's wine pot. She said in a deep voice, "Brother Feng, thank you." Feng Jixing let out a soft sigh and said with a smile, "Actually, when you smashed up the nurturing hall last time, Big Brother Feng was clearly secretly cheering for you. Perhaps, it was also because of your courage that I was able to do such a thing." Feng Jixing has always been cautious and conscientious in this small half of his life, not daring to overstep his boundaries. "It was only until I met you, that I was able to do so many crazy things." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu leaned on the withered short pine behind her and tilted her head back to drink a mouthful of wine. She smiled and said, "In my hometown, there is an old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. You are the commander of the imperial army and represent the majesty of the emperor. There will always be injustice in this world and you naturally cannot turn a blind eye to it. You are the person who wants to change this world." Feng Jixing was startled and a trace of fanaticism appeared in his cold eyes. In the blink of an eye, this trace of fanaticism disappeared without a trace. He smiled and said, "Smelly brat, what are you saying? We are soldiers and obeying orders is our responsibility. In the future, don't say such crazy things to Big Brother. Otherwise, I, Feng Jixing, may become the second Mad General Lin Muyu." "Mad General?" Lin Muyu was startled and said, "Who is slandering me like that?" Feng Jixing laughed and said, "Because of Little Bean Sprout, you publicly challenged the Divine Marquis residence. On the day of weapon refinement, you publicly cut off one of the arms of the #1 instructor, Zhao Jin. Because of the nurturing hall, you dared to challenge His Majesty. In the end, you were exiled to the Tower of Babel and you actually came back alive. Don't you think that what you did in Lanyan City was not arrogant enough? Don't say that you don't know this title has long been circulating in the military camp of Lanyan City. Mad General Lin Muyu, this title is indeed very suitable for you." Lin Muyu angrily hugged the wine pot in her arms and said, "What are you saying? I only did what I should do. Brother Chu Huayin, you judge who is right between me and Brother Feng." Chu Huayin was using a long sword to pick up a piece of fragrant mutton. He said leisurely, "Feng Jixing's position is higher than yours. I think what Feng Jixing said is very reasonable." Lin Muyu was speechless for a moment. The three of them ate the meat together. Not long after, they actually finished a whole fat leg of mutton. They were indeed martial artists. This kind of appetite was not something that ordinary people could have. Lin Muyu burped and suddenly thought of something. She smiled and asked, "Brother Feng, this mountain where the headquarters is located has been developed. Not far from here, there is another North Mountain. It was originally occupied by a mercenary group. What do you plan to do with these two mountains?" Feng Jixing muttered, "This place is quite far from the capital. It is a full 6 hours of riding distance. If we don't deal with it properly, I'm afraid it will be occupied by the House of Chivalry again. Or perhaps it will be occupied by other wandering mercenaries. It will be disadvantageous to the surrounding people. Sigh, perhaps we should hand it over to the local government to deal with it?" Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, "If the local government's army was really that useful, I'm afraid they wouldn't allow these mercenaries and rangers to burn, kill, and loot everywhere without anyone clearing them up. Then what do you think we should do?" Feng Jixing was at his wit's end. Lin Muyu smiled, "Why don't you give me this mountain?" "Oh?" Feng Jixing was shocked, "Brat, what do you want this mountain for? Are you going to keep a concubine? If that's the case, I'll secretly tell Her Highness Yin and Princess Shi." "Damn, Brother Feng, what kind of person do you think I am?" Lin Muyu's heart was moved by his words, but she still showed a loyal and courageous look and said, "I want to cultivate an army here. An army that is enough to deter the surrounding mercenaries and protect the local people." "Oh?" Feng Jixing smiled and laid on the giant rock. He looked at the starry sky and said, "I heard that the mercenary guild in Lanyan City has recently registered a new mercenary group called Longdan Army Camp. The leader's name is Lin Muyu. Could it be you?" Brother Feng's news is quite fast." "Nonsense, I'm the commander of the Imperial Guard. I know everything that happens in the Imperial capital. Tell me, why did you create this Longdan Army Camp?" "I need my own power." Lin Muyu clenched her fist and said with a cold look in her eyes, "I still remember how Zheng Yifan aggressively led the Divine Might Battalion to attack the Holy Temple. If I had a strong army, why would I be afraid of Zheng Yifan? Brother Feng, to be honest, I have doubts about the Imperial Army's combat power. If this continues, are we going to rely solely on the Imperial Guard to protect Lanyan City and Shaoyin? Feng Jixing was stunned. He was silent for a few seconds and said, I only have one question for you. Did you create the Longdan army camp for the throne or for Shaoyin? Feng Jixing was very straightforward. Lin Muyu was also stunned and said without hesitation, I've never coveted the throne and I have no interest in it. I created the Longdan army camp because I'm worried that our current power can't protect everything that's good now. I created the Longdan army camp in the hope that one day, I can rely on my own power to protect the people I care about. I see, Feng Jixing sighed and said with a smile, that's good. Brother Feng, you don't have to worry too much. Since the Longdan army camp is a brother legion of the Imperial Guard, I will definitely close one eye to the existence of the Longdan army camp. It's up to you to build the Longdan army camp to be strong. Lin Muyu nodded and asked, Brother Feng, you scared me just now. Do you think I'm the kind of person who wants to fight for the throne? You don't look like it. Feng Jixing took a deep look at him with a playful look in his eyes and said with a smile, but if you really want to fight for the throne, you will be the most terrible enemy of the Qin Empire because you have both civil and military skills. Lin Muyu couldn't help but gasp, I. Feng Jixing laughed and patted him on the shoulder intimately, saying, silly boy, you are my brother. I, Feng Jixing, will never hurt you and will never be afraid of you. Come on, drink this wine and go back to sleep early. To be honest, I'm looking forward to what kind of powerful existence your Longdan army camp will eventually become. Maybe, as you said, the military system of the Qin Empire has been fixed for too long and has lost the combat power that it should have. Even the Imperial Guard is not as good as before. We really need some fresh blood. Lin Muyu raised his head and drank a mouthful of strong wine. The spicy taste almost made him cry. Lin Muyu wiped his mouth and looked at the stars in the sky. He was thinking that if there were really Emperor stars and General stars among the stars in the sky, then where was the one that belonged to him? Was it the Emperor star or the General star? Perhaps he had never thought about becoming an emperor. But if he didn't become an emperor, could he change all the injustice and barbarism of the shattered cauldron world with his own strength? It was difficult. The world was so difficult, but he had to try. Forget it, he should go back to Lanyan City tomorrow to check on the situation of the Longdan army camp. He didn't know how many people Luo Yu had recruited. Anyway, he had already taken this mountain from Feng Jixing. It would be a good base for the Longdan army camp in the future. This mountain didn't even have a name, but it was very wide. The barracks had been built and could accommodate tens of thousands of troops. It was the best choice for the Longdan army camp. Feng Jixing was lying on a huge rock, seemingly drunk, as he looked at the sky with a pair of drowsy eyes. He tilted his head to look at Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin and couldn't help but smile. When he looked at the sky again, a shooting star streaked across the sky. He was slightly stunned, and his eyes seemed to become more serious. Chapter 168. The next day, Lin Muyu woke up early in the morning. She was wearing the armor of a gold star training partner from the Holy Sanctum, which was also embedded with a buoyancy gem. The biggest difference between this outfit and her previous one was the dark blue underwear underneath the armor. This was the uniform of the high-ranking generals of the Empire. The dark blue fabric was very hard, and there were 2 military insignia embedded on the collar. Behind the golden purple flower was a golden 6-pointed star, representing the rank of a chili arch. Feng Jixing's military insignia was a golden purple flower with 3 golden 6-pointed stars behind it. Just like the strict ranking system, Chiliarchs had 1 star, captaincy had 2 stars, and commanders had 3 stars. As for the Imperial Marshal, no one knew. Along the way, maids walked hand in hand, some with tears on their faces. When Lin Muyu, who was wearing the Holy Sanctum's battle robe, rode his horse slowly past, one of the maids recognized him and called out softly, "Are you Lord Lin Yen, game envoy?" Lin Muyu turned around with a warm smile on her face. "Lin Yen is not my real identity. I am Lin Muyu from the Holy Sanctum of the Empire, the commander of the Eagle Nest Battalion of the Imperial Guards. I came to the headquarters of the House of Chivalry just to get rid of it." The maid was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "Thank you, Lord Lin Muyu. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we would still be living in humiliation for the rest of our lives." "You're welcome. This is what a soldier of the Empire should do." Lin Muyu cupped his fists and rode away. Chu Huaying grabbed the reins and followed her. He smiled and said, "I'm afraid not every soldier of the Empire is like you think." Lin Muyu grinned. "I know. Huh." In the afternoon, they arrived at Lanyan City. Wei Chou led the people of Eagle Nest Camp up the mountain and returned to the camp, while Lin Muyu entered Lanyan City alone. When she arrived at the Mercenary Union, it was already afternoon. The place had almost become a tavern. Many warriors reeking of alcohol were waiting here to accept tasks, and many customers came and went with solemn faces. When Lin Muyu appeared in the Holy Temple's battle robe, she immediately attracted a lot of attention. A staff member with a protruding mouth and ape-like cheeks walked over and smiled, "My lady, may I know what mission you have come to our mercenary union for? Escort, or murder and plunder?" Lin Muyu said lightly, "I won't kill anyone. I just want to ask, is there anyone from the Longdan Army Camp mercenary group here?" "Oh. Yes, yes. Huh, idiots from the Longdan Army Camp, come here, someone is looking for you." At this time, a bearded man in the corner put down the wine pot, grabbed the battle axe on the table, and said with a smile, "Who is looking for Grandpa?" "Let me see." He wore a mercenary emblem on his chest, which was the emblem of the Longdan Army Camp. It was the emblem that Luo Yu had redesigned and changed. It was a dragon-shaped design with the 3 Chinese characters of the Longdan Army Camp at the back. Note, please don't ask me why they used Chinese characters. My explanation is that the Chinese culture is broad and profound, and its domineering aura penetrated the plane and taught this group of mortals from the Shattered Cauldron realm. The burly man was obviously drunk. He swayed in front of Lin Muyu with his battle axe, raised his eyebrows, and said, "Who are you, and why are you looking for me?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little speechless. She asked, "Are you from the Longdan Army Camp? If you are, bring me to see your deputy commander, Luo Yu." "Humph, you want to see Lord Luo Yu? Why don't you ask me about this axe first?" The drunkard's vision was blurry. How could he tell that Lin Muyu was wearing the armor of a high-ranking general of the empire? He swung the axe at her head. Lin Muyu was stunned. What kind of person was this? However, this burly man's vital energy was very thick, and he seemed to be at the first level of the Earth realm. He had the strength, but his luck was a little lacking. No, strictly speaking, his alcohol tolerance was a little lacking. This was a wine dregs. A large group of people surrounded them to watch the fight, and all of them had their eyes wide open. Lin Muyu was furious, and she turned around and took 2 steps back. She opened her palm lightly, and battle energy surrounded every finger. With a "pa" sound, she grabbed the edge of the battle axe and pulled it back. Even though she couldn't compare to this burly man in terms of height and weight, she was much stronger. She directly pulled the burly man and the axe over, and with a sudden lift of her battle knee, she lightly struck the burly man's abdomen with a "pa" sound. Ah! The burly man immediately hugged his abdomen and knelt down, vomiting almost all the wine he had drunk. He had sobered up a lot, and when he looked up, he saw Lin Muyu in the armor of the Holy Temple. He immediately understood something, and hurriedly cupped his fists and said, It's Lord Lin Muyu? This is embarrassing. Bring me to see Lord Luo Yu, yes. Yes. The two of them hurried out of the door, leaving behind a group of dumbfounded spectators. Many of them still hadn't recovered from the shock. After a while, a mercenary with a sword finally said with a trembling voice, "That kid seems to be a Heaven Realm expert. I saw battle energy." Heaven Realm. Heavens, Heaven Realm. The group of people looked as if they had seen a ghost. After leaving Lanyan City, they found a dilapidated house in the forest outside the city. The burly man said respectfully, "Commander, this house has been abandoned for a long time, and people rarely come here, so Lord Luoyu set up this place as a temporary camp for the Longdan army camp." "How many people have we recruited?" Lin Muyu asked while riding on her warhorse. The burly man walked, carrying his battle axe, and grinned. "There should be around 60 people now, right? These days. Although there are many warriors in Lanyan City, many of them are boorish people who have not even stepped into the human realm. It's a little difficult to find experts above the human realm. In less than half a month, Lord Luoyu has already found more than 50 people. It's really not easy." Lin Muyu nodded. In fact, to put it in another way, the reason why they could recruit so many people was because of money. She did not give the 100,000 Jingrin coins for nothing. Outside the dilapidated house, a flag fluttered in the wind. It was a very simple flag, and the words, "Longdan Army Camp," were written on it. There was no one patrolling outside at all. When Lin Muyu stepped into the house, she saw a large group of people scattered in the yard. Some were smoking, some were drinking, and some were playing dice and gambling by the millstone. Looking at this group of people, the younger ones were 17 or 18 years old, and the older ones were in their 40s. Some were shirtless, some were only wearing underpants, and there were two people who had taken off their shirts and were comparing whose chest muscles trembled more frequently. Their faces were flushed, and they looked like they were unwilling to admit defeat. Lin Muyu was a little flustered when she saw this. She came from the modern era and had seen breast-shaking dance, but it was definitely not a dance performed by men. At this moment, looking at this yard full of JP, she was incomparably ecstatic. "Someone's here." A mercenary jumped up from a tree and said, "Look, a high-ranking officer of the Empire has arrived. He's definitely here to raid us. Brothers, get ready to attack." In an instant, a group of ferocious mercenaries surrounded Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu was still riding on her warhorse. She looked at the group with a smile and said, "What do you want? Do you want to rob me or kill me?" A skinny man holding a spear shook his weapon, and the tip of the spear was enshrouded with true energy. He smiled and said, "We won't rob you or kill you. We just want to ask how many Jingrin coins you have on you. We brothers are short on money to buy some wine these days. Isn't this a robbery?" "Bah, I said it's not a robbery, so it's not a robbery." Idiot, these people's intelligence was worrying. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be worried. She raised her eyebrows and said, "Luoyu, come out and see me." Creak, the door to the room in front of them opened. Luoyu walked out with a face full of fatigue and said with a smile, "Ah. Captain is back. Huh, this is great. Why are you pointing your weapons at him? He's Captain Lin Muyu." The group of mercenaries was dumbfounded. One of them said in a low voice, "This brat looks like a pretty boy. He's definitely a trash kept by those fat ladies in Yanlan City. What right does this kind of person have to be our boss?" "Oh, are you guys choosing a boss?" Lin Muyu laughed and got off her horse. She didn't even take out her weapon. She looked at the group of people around her and said, "You idiots dare to be so arrogant? Come, come, come. Come at me together. Don't say that I'm bullying you." Luoyu was stunned. "My lady, it's okay. I know what I'm doing." Lin Muyu smiled and said. In fact, she knew very well that although these mercenaries looked ugly, they were at least in the human realm. Some of them had even stepped into the earth realm. These people were the strongest in the village and they were all very arrogant. If she didn't show them her skills, she might not be able to be the captain of the Longdan army camp. Buzz! The gourd rose up and Lin Muyu raised her fist. Instantly, a dense battle energy surrounded the area. Heavens, he's a heaven realm expert, just like Lady Luo Yu. Yes, that's battle energy. So what if he's in the heaven realm? We have more people. If he wants to be our boss, let's see if he has the ability to do so. As they spoke, the group of people surged forward. One of them, who was in the second heaven of the earth realm, roared and punched at Lin Muyu's chest like a dragon coming out of the sea. This punch was very powerful and could not be underestimated. However, Lin Muyu only dodged to the side and raised her hand to punch the man's abdomen. With a bang, the man took a few steps back and knelt on the ground holding his stomach, unable to get up. The chaotic attacks landed on the walls of the gourd, but they were all blocked by the mystic tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall. On the other hand, Lin Muyu raised both her fists and directly used the fiery soul fist that she learned from Zhang Wei. Her fists danced, sending the mercenaries flying back one by one. Just when the group of mercenaries was the most tightly encircled, Lin Muyu raised one of her arms. Waves of demonic energy surrounded her arm, and she suddenly punched the ground. Two luminaries' demonic dance. Bang! The 7 luminaries' Xian energy, which was only 30% of its strength, surged and turned into a shockwave. The strong impact sent the group of people flying. In the blink of an eye, a large number of people fell, leaving only Lin Muyu standing proudly in the center. How is it? Do I deserve to be the commander of the Longdan army camp? He asked with a smile. The group of mercenaries cupped their fists and said, "Commander is mighty. Commander is awesome." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, "Let me ask all of you a question." "Commander, please say it. You're the strongest, so you have the final say." Lin Muyu pondered and asked, "Do you want to be a hero or a coward?" Everyone was stunned. After a few seconds, they said, "Commander, we want to be heroes." Lin Muyu shook her head and smiled faintly. "But now, all of you look like cowards." Chapter 169. Leader, we. The group of Longdan army camp mercenaries were stunned. They didn't know what Lin Muyu was planning. They couldn't figure out what their leader was thinking. Lin Muyu's battle energy rose up and strengthened the walls of the gourd. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Only a coward would beg for mercy. The Longdan army camp is called the Longdan army camp because we have guts. If you are not cowards, then think of a way to defeat me. Otherwise, how can you be worthy of being the mercenaries of my Longdan army camp? Hey, come on." In an instant, he angered these people. One by one, the mercenaries took out their weapons and looked like they were going to risk their lives. Luo Yu stood at the side and was stunned. In the next moment, the battle continued. A large group of mercenaries waved all kinds of weapons and slashed at Lin Muyu. They also used all kinds of secret skills, evil dog snatching **T. Umbrella dragon in the sky. Lion steals peach. Deadly chain lightning kick. All kinds of attacks landed on the walls of the gourd. What followed was Lin Muyu's counterattack. He punched them one by one and beat them until their faces were swollen. These mercenaries seemed to have become wild and rushed forward with their faces covered in blood. Under this situation, Lin Muyu's battle energy was running out. In the face of so many Heaven Realm and Earth Realm experts, he only relied on the second star to intimidate them. If so many people fought with their lives at the beginning, Lin Muyu's battle energy would be depleted even faster. Very quickly, holes began to appear on the walls of the gourd. Large machetes, Buddhist staffs, and other weapons began to smash the mystic tortoise shell's flame barrier into pieces. Furthermore, more than half of the people in this group possessed martial souls. Attacks with martial souls were even more deadly. Although Lin Muyu managed to send 7 or 8 people flying with more than 10 punches, he was already having a hard time dealing with the encirclement. It was fortunate that his martial soul, the gourd, was focused on defense. If it was Feng Jixing or Chu Huayin, who had martial souls that focused on offense, they would not be able to withstand the attacks without killing or severely injuring their opponents. Pa pa pa, a streak of lightning spread out from Lin Muyu's palm. Kang! She pulled out the burning prairie sword from the horse's back. Using lightning to control the sword, the burning prairie sword swept in all directions, shaking away the weapons of the group. Lin Muyu let out a low shout and used wind to control the sword. Suddenly, a gale swept in all directions, blowing everyone back. All right. Lin Muyu stood where he was, and the burning prairie sword appeared above his shoulder, flashing with lightning. He smiled and said, "You guys really didn't disappoint me. It's already not bad to be able to do this." At this time, the mercenaries lying on the ground got up one by one. One of the strong men whose nose was bleeding wiped the blood from his nose and asked, "Leader, are you that Lin Muyu who recently saved the emperor and the capital's #1 beauty, Her Highness Yin, from Deer Song Garden?" "Yes." "Ah, you've seen Her Highness Yin? What does she look like?" Everyone's eyes widened. Damn it, Lin Muyu was a little speechless and said, "You guys shouldn't be paying attention to Her Highness Yin, right? Besides, what does Her Highness Ying's appearance have to do with you guys? Train well and establish the Longdan army camp as the #1 mercenary group in Lanyan City. This is our first step." Luo Yu's heart was already filled with 1,000,000 what the F***ck's horses were galloping. He didn't think that Lin Muyu's training method was so strange. The greeting gift was to beat up his subordinates first. He cupped his fists and smiled, giving Lin Muyu an imperial military salute and said, "Leader is wise." Everyone followed suit and saluted. This kind of military salute made Lin Muyu feel very comfortable. This way, the mercenaries in the Longdan army camp didn't look like a bunch of mobs anymore, although, their appearance and expressions didn't look like good people. Luo Yu held the name list and said, "Leader, we've already recruited 62 mercenaries. In addition, in less than 2 hours, there will be another group of people coming to join us. There are more than 30 people in total. They are a group of wandering mercenaries from 7 Seas City." "Wandering mercenaries?" Lin Muyu asked with a frown. Luo Yu couldn't help but smile and cupped his fists. "Don't worry, leader. Although the hands of these wandering mercenaries are stained with blood, it's the blood of unforgivable criminals. They haven't killed innocent people." "Yes, that's good. Get ready. Once this group of people arrives, we'll immediately set off for the new camp." "Oh? Our warhorses haven't arrived yet. They'll only arrive around dusk." "Then wait until dusk." "Yes." Not long after noon, a large group of people arrived at the dilapidated house. They were indeed all mercenaries from 7 Seas City. They all had tired expressions on their faces. The leader was an old friend of Luo Yu's, which was why he came to join them. There were 39 people in total. Now, the Longdan army camp finally had more than 100 people. A little later, a group of horse dealers drove the warhorses over. There were more than 150 warhorses in total. It was said that they were all high-quality warhorses from the northern desert. They were fast and had good endurance. Each warhorse was sold for 100 gold coins. In one go, the Longdan army camp had 15,000 gold coins. After that, they also had to make the special armor and clothing for the Longdan army camp. This was also an expense. Including weapons, rations, etc., building an army was simply a battle of money. Fortunately, Lin Muyu was not short of money. His crafting skills were almost enough to make him one of the richest people in the world. Arriving at the headquarters of the Hall of Chivalry in the middle of the night, a group of mercenaries from the Longdan army camp looked at everything with bright eyes. The Imperial Guard who was guarding the door recognized Lin Muyu. He smiled politely and said, "General Lin Muyu, our commander asked us to wait here for the handover. Is this your Longdan army camp?" "Heh, it looks pretty good." His smile was a little weird. Immediately, a warrior from the Longdan army camp rushed out with a long spear in hand. He pointed the spear and said, "What do you mean by being weird? If you have the guts, come out and fight 300 rounds with me." Lin Muyu immediately raised his voice and said, "Shut up and return to the team." "Yes, Regiment Commander," he returned with his tail between his legs. This was the result of Lin Muyu beating them up as soon as she arrived. This bunch of motley crew had to first erase their arrogance, or else they would never be able to become true soldiers. Lin Muyu cupped her hands and said with a smile, "Yes, it's them. Thank you, General. I will personally thank General Feng later. Then we will go up the mountain. Thank you very much. From now on, this mountain will be guarded by our Longdan army camp. Okay, then we will go back. Thank you." Nearly 500 Imperial cavalrymen went down the mountain in a mighty manner. The group of hooligans in the Longdan army camp was stunned. Lin Muyu saw this and laughed in her heart. After a while, she said, "Don't envy them. One day, you will be like them. Perhaps, your combat power will be stronger than theirs." "Yes, Regiment Commander," the group of mercenaries in the Longdan army camp cupped their fists. At this moment, they looked at Lin Muyu with not only respect but also admiration. This was the mentality of ordinary people. Who would be willing to be a hooligan in the eyes of others? If it was possible, everyone would choose to wear the bright armor of the empire and serve the country. They would be loved by the people and become a soldier who protected the country and its honor. Luo Yu had been watching Lin Muyu's every word and action and seemed to be influenced by her. The group of people went up the mountain. The houses had already been prepared. At least, it was enough for the group of people in front of them to live in. The flag of the Longdan army camp was instantly placed on the main altar, fluttering in the night wind. "This mountain doesn't have a name yet," Lin Muyu said. Luo Yu smiled slightly. "This mountain is rugged, with a lone peak that pierces the clouds like the head of a real dragon. Why don't we call it Dragon Rocky Mountain? What do you think, sir?" "Dragon Rocky Mountain. Dragon Rocky Mountain," Lin Muyu repeated twice. She remembered that Long Yen was originally Jin Zun from the Hall of Chivalry. His entire life was probably to pursue fame and fortune, but he was killed by Jiang Fenglai in the end. However, the name Dragon Rocky Mountain was not bad. She would treat it as a memorial to this unknown traveler. She smiled and said, "Yes, send someone to invite the craftsmen over tomorrow and carve the words Dragon Rocky Mountain on the rock wall. This mountain will be the encampment of our Longdan army camp in the future." "Yes, sir." "Oh yes, continue to send people around Lanyan City to search for cultivators with good character to join the Longdan army camp. After they enter the Longdan army camp, give them a monthly salary so that they have something to rely on. In addition, maintain a high intensity of training every day so that everyone knows how to ride horses, shoot arrows, use swords, and so on. Yes, the training will be settled. Sir, you don't have to worry." "Oh yes, sir, do we need to accept those employment missions from the mercenary guild?" "No, you don't have to." Lin Muyu's eyes shone as she said, "You can send people to the nearby villages to accept the missions entrusted by the villagers. If they have needs, we will try our best to satisfy them, especially those wandering mercenaries who are disturbing the surrounding villagers. Think of a way to eliminate them one by one. In this area of Dragon Rocky Mountain, only our Longdan army camp can exist. The rest of the motley crew will be wiped out. Luo Yu couldn't help but laugh. Sir, do we really have that kind of strength? As far as I know, there are still a few wandering mercenary groups near Dragon Rocky Mountain. It is said that the largest group has at least 2,000 people gathered. They are all bandits and bandits. These people are not to be trifled with. Sir, are we really going to make them our enemy? Of course we can. The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up. She said each word firmly. Every time we eliminate a wandering mercenary group, we will choose those with a conscience and decent strength among the captives to join us. After training, we will continue to expand our scale. Also, Luo Yu, you have to pay special attention to one thing. What is it, sir? Military law must be strict. Orders must be followed. If anyone in the Longdan army camp disturbs the people and the situation is serious, they will be killed without mercy. Yes, don't worry, sir. I will remember. Okay, that's good. I will make a trip back to the imperial capital. I will leave this place to you temporarily. Let me know when the funds are used up. Yes, sir. Chapter 170. In the afternoon, the winter sun shone lazily on Lanyan City. Under the mottled shadows of the trees, Lin Muyu slowly rode his horse into the city. He could even enter the imperial capital without being checked just by relying on his divine temple armor and the insignia on his neck. He let the warhorse gallop freely on Tongtian Street. He took out the netherworld stone ring from his chest pocket and put it on his thumb. However, he found that the feeling of the sword was affected when he held it. It seemed that this thing was just an ornament. It was not practical to use it as a weapon or defensive tool. After playing with it for a while, he took off the netherworld stone ring and stuffed it back into his chest pocket. At this time, the street in front of him was very lively. Many commoners had gathered around. Lin Muyu hurriedly urged his horse to go over to take a look. However, he found that there was a convoy in front of him. The rolling carts were connected together like a train, and the carts were transporting the body of a huge creature. It was the carcass of the dragon serpent that was killed in Deer Song Garden. The imperial army actually transported the carcass of the dragon serpent back. Looking at the carcass of the dragon serpent, Lin Muyu looked at his burning prairie sword. Even the sharpness of the burning prairie sword could not cut through the scales of the dragon serpent. One could imagine the hardness of the scales. Moreover, each scale of the dragon serpent was about a meter in diameter and was in the shape of a diamond. If it was used to make a shield, it should be invulnerable, right? Thinking of this, Lin Muyu could not help but have an idea. He immediately urged his horse forward and found the leader of the convoy. It was an acquaintance, thousand-man Commander Luo Lai, one of Feng Jixing's right-hand men. General Luo Lai. Luo Lai turned around and saw Lin Muyu. He could not help but smile. Oh, it's Lord Lin Muyu. Why are you on Tongtian Street? Shouldn't you be at the Eagle's Nest camp? I'm not going to the Eagle's Nest camp today. Lin Muyu rode beside him and asked, where are we going to send such a huge dragon snake's corpse? It was Commander Feng Jixing who asked us to transport the carcass of the dragon snake to the Zetian Palace. He said that the meat of the dragon snake contains a huge amount of fire energy. After drying it, it can be cooked into meat soup to keep out the cold in winter. The dragon snake's bones can be ground into powder and used as medicine to strengthen the body. Moreover, this is a 12,300-year-old dragon snake. If it wasn't for the fact that it didn't pass the tribulation, it would have already transformed into a dragon. I see. Lin Muyu rubbed her hands and smiled. Can I discuss something with you? Oh, what is it? Luo Lai looked at him, amused. Can you give me all the scales of this dragon snake after you cut them off? Is that so? Luo Lai smiled. Sir, are you going to use the scales of the dragon snake to make a shield or a chain armor? Shield. I see. Alright, since the commander didn't say that he wanted the scales. Besides, this dragon snake was killed by Lord Lin Muyu. There's nothing wrong with giving the scales to you. You can come with me to the palace. When we deal with the carcass, we will send the scales to you. Alright, thank you, General Luo Lai. Sir, there's no need to be so polite. We're all on the same side. After entering the Zetian Palace, they dealt with the carcass of the dragon snake in the side hall. The imperial chefs cut the meat and separated the bones. The blood-stained scales were loaded onto the horse carriage. Lin Muyu counted carefully. There were more than 500 scales in total. Her heart was filled with joy. These scales filled 5 full carriages. Feng Jixing assigned 20 more imperial guards to Lin Muyu. In the afternoon, they transported the scales to the largest ironware shop in the imperial capital, 100 King's Ironware Shop. It was said that this ironware shop had tens of thousands of years of history. It had been through hundreds of emperors, hence its name. However, not long after Lin Muyu entered the ironware shop, a familiar figure appeared, Jin Xiaotang. Brother you haven't appeared in a long time. Jin Xiaotang walked up to him intimately. Suddenly, she pouted and said, you asked me to introduce you to the Hall of Chivalry. I didn't expect you to go on a mission to spy on the military. This time, Xiaotang has offended the Hall of Chivalry because of you. It's up to you. Lin Muyu was full of regret. I'm sorry. Xiaotang, I was in the wrong. I'll apologize to you. Oh yes, why are you here? Jin Xiaotang patted the sign of the ironware shop and said, because this 100 King's Ironware Shop is also an asset of the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. Of course, I have to come here. As she spoke, she looked at the pile of dragon snake scales on the carriage. She smiled and said, Brother are you using the scales of the dragon snake as the main body to forge a shield? Wow, these scales are so thick. How old is this dragon snake? More than 10,000 years. That's a lot. Jin Xiaotang stuck out her tongue and smiled. If that's the case, I'll make the decision myself and give you a cheap price. I'll only charge 10 gold kin coins for each shield. I'll use 100-year dark steel to forge the edges of the dragon snake scales. The perforation and polishing fees will all be within 10 gold kin coins. How does that sound? Okay, thank you, Xiaotang. But there's a condition. Oh, what condition? Hee. Jin Xiaotang pulled Lin Muyu's hand and said, Father recently received a shipment from the west. There are a lot of rainbow lotuses. Brother do me a favor and make 100 bottles of Dream of the Peak for the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. How about that? Our last auction of Dream of the Peak was aborted. Many customers are waiting to buy it. Okay, then let's go to the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. I want to buy some materials to recast my weapon. Okay. Once again, he went to the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. Accompanied by Jin Xiaotang, he looked through the rare materials in the Spirit Stone shop. In the end, he only chose a 9,700-year-old black tortoise spirit stone. This would be used to refine the nether cyan stone. As for the other spirit stones, he didn't think much of them. Forget it, he wouldn't forge a weapon this time. Xiaotang, do you have any iron ores that are suitable for tempering? He asked. Jin Xiaotang blinked and said, I do have some, but I don't know if brother you will like it. Oh, what kind of iron? Let me see. Okay. Jin Xiaotang walked up and said to the shopkeeper, Boss Qian, can you show me the iron ore that can't be smelted in your shop last time? Yes, eldest Mississippi, at the shopkeeper's order, a burly blacksmith immediately carried a pile of black iron ore and walked up. He wiped it, and his hands were immediately covered with black ash. Jin Xiaotang smiled and said, "This is the smelly stone. It has been smelted in the 100 Kings ironware shop for 10 days and 10 nights, but it still hasn't melted. It is said to be a stubborn stone, but who knows what it is. If brother you wants it, you can take it for 1 Jin coin. If you don't want it, we still have some 10,000-year black iron and 1,000-year black iron for you to choose from." Oh. Lin Muyu reached out and touched the black stone. Immediately, a thick spiritual power flowed into her palm. This was definitely not a stubborn stone that couldn't be smelted. At this moment, Lulu's excited voice came from Yi. "Brother, this stone is the legendary 9 Heavens Spirit Iron. It is a divine iron that fell from the sky into the mortal world. If it can be smelted, it will definitely be a divine weapon." "Really?" Lin Muyu also smiled and said with her spiritual perception, "That's great." He immediately took out a Jin coin and placed it on the table. Then, he smiled and said, "Wrap it up. I want this stubborn stone. I want to see how stubborn it really is." Jin Xiaotang giggled. Okay. Boss Qian, wrap up the stubborn stone." "Yes." Then, Jin Xiaotang directly provided a large pile of rainbow lotus and skeleton tree herbs to Lin Muyu for free. She only asked him to refine Dream of the Peak to increase the Imperial Chamber of Commerce's dominance. Jin Xiaotang was a girl who was very good at doing business. This made Lin Muyu secretly happy. Who wouldn't like doing business without any cost? After agreeing to go to the ironware shop to collect the dragon snake shield in 3 days, Lin Muyu directly returned to the Eagle Nest camp. On the Eagle Nest Mountain, brand new barracks had already been built. As the commander, Lin Muyu's living quarters were arranged in a hall in the center. It was relatively spacious and very quiet. It was very satisfying. After dinner, he started working. He spent close to 3 hours refining 132 bottles of Dream of the Peak. Other than 100 bottles for Jin Xiaotang, he kept the rest for the people in the Longdan army camp who had a higher cultivation level. Improving his own family's strength was the most important. Then, he started the process of refining the netherworld stone ring. Buzz, buzz, the crafting cauldron glowed with a frightening luster in the room. Lin Muyu stood outside the cauldron and threw the netherworld stone ring into it. Immediately, raging flames lingered around the ring like ribbons. Silently feeling the structure of the netherworld stone ring, Lin Muyu's spiritual perception slowly permeated it. She discovered that the structure of the netherworld stone was indeed very strange. It was somewhat similar to the molecular structure of a diamond. It was extremely hard, and unlike a diamond, the netherworld stone's melting point was also ridiculously high. However, Lin Muyu didn't plan to refine it. She directly used the 5th layer of the crafting cauldron's hellfire to slowly comb through the structure of the netherworld stone ring. She opened up the joints in the stone material and then started refining the 9,700-year-old mystic tortoise spirit stone. After almost an hour, the spirit stone was successfully refined. Amidst the roar sounds, the azure blue dragon turtle's soul roared in the air and slowly seeped into the netherworld stone. After a while, the netherworld stone glowed and landed in Lin Muyu's palm. She put the ring on her thumb and activated her Do Qi. In an instant, the spirit of the mystic tortoise was already lingering around the ring, ready to come out at any time to protect its owner. The mystic tortoise was originally good at defense, and this ring that had been refined was equivalent to a defensive tool. She put the ring away. Although this netherworld stone ring was very strong, its appearance was shockingly ugly. Lin Muyu had already decided to give it to Reihong. As the great deacon of the divine temple, the old man should have some treasured tools that were worthy of his identity to protect himself. Continue, the highlight was coming. Refining that stubborn stone, 9 Heavens Spirit Iron. You're tuning into the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.